We want to give our contestant at least a chance so that we can move on with this event. So I think I'll start with the highest position coming down. So I think I've been advised that I should start with the lowest going up. So sorry for that. So I would like first all contestants who are vying for ordinary council member to stand up so that I can locate them. Kindly, all contestants who are vying for ordinary member. So I will first, the rules of the game is this way. We are going to give a maximum of 3 minutes each. So kindly be brief, straight to the point, so that we can also give others a humble time to say 1 or 2 things that they have. So I will kindly sit down so that I'll start by giving a lady, the first lady, the chance. So I would like to introduce Engineer Doreen Kago to come and give us a brief explanation of herself and whatever she has for this institution when she's elected ordinary council member. Kindly, please.
Thank you very much, Engineer. My name is Engineer Doreen Kerima Kago. So mostly it's Engineer Doreen Kerima. Thank you very much for inviting us and for this forum. South Rift, mko juu sana, sawa sawa, muendelee vivyo hivyo. And what was mentioned here, it's what we want it done across the country. We want engineers' voice to be heard. We want that transition from student, GE, PE, even to CE to be as easy as we did our schoolwork. If we made it at the university, why is it very difficult for me to graduate from student to GE, from GE to PE, from PE to CE? These are my 4 points that I really want to work on as a council member of IEK. Number 1, expertise enhancement. For all those levels, at different levels, we have our different requirements. We understand them, engineers. Why can we not work on them? Number 2, communication. If we have an opportunity for engineers, may it be a consultant, a student, a graduate, why not get it on my phone? You know, if I want an internship, if Kericho is offering that internship, I get it on my phone, I'm a student, I need this internship. If Kura, where I work as a consultancy job, why do I have to wait for so many dailies? It was last week, it was this week. All of us, we received that message. Kura has advertised for this consultancy. If I'm a student, I want to graduate in this course, let me know which universities are offering these courses. The other point is CPD best practice. All of us, we have attended those courses. I used to work in a private firm before I went where I work, government. We have an added advantage, of course, of the government pays for us. And I know how difficult it was even to attend PIP seminar. I'm happy for this South Rift for bringing down the cost to 5,000. We still want it lower because these GEs don't have money. The consultants also don't have that money sometimes to pay. How can we work together, you know? As in, I like what engineer said. We have 3 pillars here in this oven of ours, or this. We have the institution, we have me as the engineer, we have the consultant. How can we work together to bring down this fee? Engineer Abel gave us a very good proposal, which that's what I want to work on. Let's look for sponsorship. We have World Bank, we have parastatals that can sponsor us and have such conferences without any payment of any monies, or let's pay the little we can. CPDs need to add value. Why do I have to look for a project manager who did Bachelor of Arts? Yet we have engineers here who are so experienced. They have managed projects, very big projects. Why not them come and give us a lecture and give us experiences that they have? They earn the CPD points, and even us, we benefit from them. Why can't we have exchange programs from engineers who are working all over the world? We have technology nowadays. I don't have to travel to America to attend a course. We have Dolo, wherever you are. Thank you very much. Now we know, I can get wherever I want throughout. in this world. These are my key points, and I'll support any candidate who will win so that we deliver the best we can for this institution. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Engineer Doreen. Thank you so much. I think we will always maintain the 3 minutes time. And I would like to invite Engineer Marembe to come and say something, at least campaign to members. Once you hear double tap, kindly know that is the end of your time. So be brief, kindly. Thank you, Engineer Marembe. Karibu.
Good evening, engineers. My name is Engineer Godfrey Marambe, and I've been a committee member in IEK. The first time I started interacting actively with the IEK was in 2017. In 2018, I became a committee member and a mentorship and capacity building committee. And under this committee, we've been able to push a lot of agenda. We've promoted a contract management seminar for water engineers, which was done in Nakuru. Frequent PIPs. We've done also promotion of capacity building for young engineers so that they can be able to transition from GEs to PEs. And we've also done a lot of mentorship. I'm sure you've seen what we've done under promoting mentorship for high school students that we did yesterday. We've done for university students, more university. And these are the things that I really want to push going forward. I have my own agendas that if I get into the council, I want to push, like amplification of the participation by members, in that we should have more activities that will bring together engineers, because engineers for a long time we've not been united, and it has reached a point if we want to do something and we have to be heard in this country, we have to be together. Another one is I want to try and push. Currently we have about 3,000 professional engineers. If you look at that and you look at the IEK register, you have about, again, 3,000 registered 3,000 graduate engineers. If all the PEs can be encouraged, maybe by even getting CPDs, to mentor all these 3,000 engineers in a year, will be able to transition more than, if they were able to even take 2 people, they'll be able to transition even 2, and by next year we'll be able to have 6,000 more registered professionals in the industry. The other one is we know the country and the world is, sorry. The country and the world is moving towards digitalization of services, and we are facing a lot of challenges with the processing of our papers, applications. You have to look for your referees. You have to go to IEK. You have to wait for them to send you the responses. So, and these are the processes that can be done digitally, and you can be able to get these things in an instant. Your referee can sign for you online. Your annual practicing license can be also given to you instantaneously. So please, I want you to vote for me, because they have a passion, and I am in the private sector. In the last 2 years, personally, I've been able to mentor more than 10 GEs to transition to PEs. I'm also an employer, and I've employed more than 12 GEs in my company in the last 5 years. So whatever I'm speaking is something that I've practiced, and I'm willing to practice more. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Engineer Godfrey Marambe. I wish you all the best. I would like now to introduce our last contestant on that position of ordinary council member. He's called Engineer Changole, and he's here with us. Karibu, Engineer.
Good morning, guys. Najua nimechoka lakini munisikie kidogo. I'll keep mine short. I'll donate my valuable time to wageni wa Nairobi. Karibuni in the South Rift. My name, as you've heard, is Engineer Collins Changole. I've been with you. I've been working with you all through. I've been a mentor to some of you. I've been a signatory to some of you. We began the journey, the second declaration, with Engineer Lucy Wanjiku. Thank you. We started the branch on a very random breakfast under the honorable guidance of the secretary. My pillars are short and simple and plucked from the South Rift Manifesto, in that I want enhanced service delivery, that is cheaper CPDs for professional and consulting engineers. We cannot be paying that crazy amount, spending 200,000, 300,000 minus leave days for just CPD. Make it affordable, cheaper, but still at the same quality, in that we utilize, as Doreen has stated before, the internal resource we have. We look inward. The engineers who've been trained, the guys who are 60, 70 years, world of experience, why not use them? Secondly is a pillar which is being pushed by presidential candidate. Why don't we work on this structured training for GEs? Why don't we make it work? Everybody has been talking about it. It's a document that's just flying around. Why don't we have a hard document now and roll it out to all GEs, and not just a part of GEs, a good number of the GEs. The second one is capacity development. What are we doing to develop ourselves? Are we organizing meetings to meet up and grow as engineers? That is a question to you. My last pillar is stakeholder engagement. We don't work as an island. Engineers, I remember to pick my annual license for this year, 2020, I had to get my document signed by a lawyer. We don't work alone. We need to engage with either the government, the private sector, donors, as Engineer Abel has asked of us. We need to bring all these people on board and let engineers go back. Let engineers go back to where they're supposed to be, which is at the top of the food chain. Thank you.
That was Engineer Collins Changole, and he is vying for the position of Ordinary Council Member. I would like now to introduce, we are going up a bit. Now the Ordinary Council members, there were only few, there were only 3. Now I want to go to our Honorary Treasurer. So I would like to call our Honorary. Okay. I'm guided. Kindly take your seat, Engineer Moshigadi. I'm guided that I should go to the position of second vice president. Then I can come to honorary treasurer. Then I can come to honorary secretary. Then I can go to first vice president. Then we can go to the president. So I stand guided, and I would like to now call Engineer Eric Ohaga to come and say some few things.
Thank you so much, Abdi. Good evening. South Rift Piala. South Rift Baba. Yesterday, what were you told by those kids? Rada. South Rift Rada. Yesterday, by the way, we had some mentorship for high school students. That is Tare boys, Jamhuri boys, and the Boma. Boma is Kenya High. And those boys and girls were telling us about Chinese, that they are seeing Chinese everywhere. What are they doing? Is it that we don't have engineers in Kenya? We can see engineers here. My name is Engineer Eric Ohaga. Currently, I am a director in charge of nuclear infrastructure development with the Nuclear Power Agency. I've also worked with Kenya Power as a manager in charge of design and approvals. I've been a council member since 2018. I've been a vice chairman of membership committee and a chairman of the Young Engineers Chapter. And this Young Engineers Chapter is what runs in my DNA. For sure, I can tell you, I want to see these guys in the next 3 years as PEs. And my first pillar is to demystify the registration process. And to demystify the registration process is that I know what it is, because I have worked with the guys from universities. I've worked with the GEs from the coastal region to the central rift region to the north rift to western region. I know where the problem is. I am a member of the interviewing panels for electrical. And I can tell you for sure, when we got into the council in 2018, We know what the problem was in terms of interviews. And it was in the electrical panel that actually gave birth to the expansion of these particular interview panels. And for sure, you have seen the increase in numbers in terms of membership. We want to make this thing as simple as ABC. These guys are so brilliant. 5 years in the university cannot be compared to a registration process. For sure, in the next 3 years, you guys will be PEs. Now, today, I just came from Naivasha, and my second pillar is on legislation. But there you guys, if you are not in the table looking at the legislation in this country, then we shall be the food that will be eaten. We must be in that particular table that make these particular laws. I was looking at the Engineers Act, and we are making regulations to operationalize that particular act. And when I came over that place and came here, I was happy because I'd taken interest of these engineers in that particular act. Because there's something called licensing board, and I ensured that an engineer shall be nominated by IEK in that particular board. So today I will go home when I'm happy because I know I'll have actually started implementing my particular discussion of that particular bill until enactment and assent and enforcement of that particular act, so that the rightful place in this room. The third pillar is on the branches, and that is empowerment of the branches. Hii kitu lazima kuja mashinani up to the county level, and I'm very happy because this is already happening in the South Rift. The presence of IEK must be felt at the shop floor level, and when you do that, we will be happy as a profession. I'm vying for the position of the second VP, and I kindly and humbly request for your vote come the 23rd of March 2020. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Engineer Eric Ohaga. Thank you so much, Engineer Eric Ohaga, for your time. I will now gladly call upon my honorary treasurer, Engineer Fanuel Moshigadi, to also campaign and ask for votes from members. Karibu sana, Engineer.
Good evening, South Rift members. How are you? As you have heard, my name is Engineer Fanuel Moshigadi. Currently, your honorary treasurer. I've been taking charge of the resources that we have been having at the institution. And my motto or my vision for this period is to grow revenues and safeguard your resources. How are we going to do that? How do we grow the resources? There are two ways. First, we have to increase membership. All of us have to take active role to make sure that we transit the GEs to PEs. That is one source of revenues. The other source is, as Engineer Abel Rotich had indicated, we need to look for sponsorship out, within, and outside. If we can be able to do that, we can actually be able to visualize or actualize the goal of reducing the cost of the trainings. Because there is a certain minimum that has to be met for a course to be able to be run. So if we can be able to get sponsorship, then definitely we can be able to lower the fees and actualize the dream of having the Engineers Plaza, which is one of our goals in the strategic plan. Number two, how do we start safeguarding our resources? First and foremost, for those people who are in the field of instrumentation, we normally say, you cannot be able to control what you can't measure. So first we have to be able to measure. So how do we do measuring? We have to have systems and procedures that can be able to dictate the functions or the activities that we're doing. We have already moved from hard copies accounting. We have already gone to now a software. Now this software in accounting that we have already implemented at our institution will be able to help us to know where are the loopholes, where are our funds being depleted faster. So we can be able to now go ahead and start controlling. We have already integrated, or we're integrating the software, the accounting software with MMS, Membership Management System, which is already being launched very soon, I think next week. So already in that system, we have already taken into consideration the application, online application of the members, either GE or moving from GE to PE. It's already at the testing level, so very soon, I'm sure before the end of the year or within the first 6 months, it will already be implemented. So we'll start be doing most of our applications online, yeah? And then how do we continue, or how do we ensure that the profession is being seen, is visible? Last year, I got an opportunity to appear in the TV together with the water guys, Jukwaa la Kiswahili, yeah? And yes, we demystified even the engineering in Swahili. You actually speaking Swahili, so you share with members and the importance, you tell them the importance of engineers and why we should have to go and look for them. And then it is not only appearing at the TV. Someone talked about the Friday wear by the government. It should be African, yeah? No, Kenyan. My design, on Friday, I go to work with a reflective jacket, which has got IEK, and my helmet is IEK. I use that opportunity, and almost every time I wear that, someone asks me about the institution. That is how we can be able to increase our visibility and also send the gospel around. So, as we grow revenues, yeah, and safeguard our resources, you can actually bank on me. Thank you very much.
Wow. Thank you so much, Engineer Fanuel Moshigadi. I will now like to request engineer for the position of Honorary Secretary. I will call upon Engineer Margaret Ogai. Kindly.
Yes, you should be. Good evening. Thank you. You know, we are trying to learn this game of politics, so it's really nice, and I think I would like to thank this team. This team sitting here are the ones who are driving IEK and where we are going. Thank you so much for the forum. I would like to thank our presidents. Today we can't say which of you will become, God will tell us, but we thank you all for even honoring us and coming. Our worthy candidates, all of us who are here, thank you as well, because I think it makes this very colorful, interesting, and I'm really happy to be here. I don't want to waste a lot of time. So, and I normally find I talk with notes. I'll stay. My name is Engineer Margaret Ogai. I'm currently an ordinary council member of the team that came in 2018, and we are now coming to the end of our term. And one of the things I want to start with is debunking a few myths. We have been the transformation, and I think it's good we set that record. We are proud of the work that we've done. I would like to thank all the team that is here, led by Engineer Collins, who's not with us, Engineer Matalanga, Engineer Jane. Sorry, but I will thank you somewhere. Just wait. And all of us who are council members, I think we worked as a great team. And truly, all these changes we are seeing and we are enjoying have come because we have walked the talk. We came to you in 2018, we asked for votes, and most of us have put in a lot of hard work into this, right? I currently work at Kenya Roads Board. I'm the General Manager for Planning and Programming, and I'll tell you why that becomes important. I have several positions in IEK. I think out of that eagerness to change the institution, we realized when we came in it was actually going down. Now it is on an upward trajectory. We joined very many committees. I was in functions, I was a vice chair, I was in strategic plan, which I think I'm really proud about. I was a Women Engineers Chapter chair, and there's one more. Capacity building, yes, I was there. So I think we've put in a lot of hard work into this, and I'm sure you have seen it. I think 2 days ago, we held, was it yesterday? I'm sorry, I didn't make it, I really wanted to be there. There was a walk and over 1,000 engineers came. Would it have happened a year ago? It couldn't, or 2 years ago. It wasn't going to. IEK is already visible. Let us say, let's debunk some of these myths. IEK is already digital. Let's also debunk another myth. We are currently running our our council meetings using Convene. Yes, we last conference, how did we register people? We didn't do it by paper-based. So it is a journey, and I think we are all walking this journey. And again, maybe the last one, as I now go to my pitch, is, again, I think I've talked also about teamwork. I've told you this team worked together. I don't think we ever had issues. In fact, we have been praying that there's an intervention, but we thank God anyway, because everybody's time, if God calls you to serve, you must go and serve. And that is why we are asking all of you, including Howard, please go for the position. Even me, I'm begging it. I know Engineer Auma, very worthy opponent. I listened to him and his from Zoom. I think we all have our hearts in the right place. We want to serve, and we want to be visible. Now let me just challenge all of us. Before I don't know how many minutes. I have 1 minute. Okay. I want to ask all of us, yes, we are here today, and we are talking. We want to do so much for you. We really do. We really are that committed. This visibility we are talking about, out there. Mwanamboga anajua tunaongea? See, let's be serious. No. Yeah? I think that is the next stage we must go to. Because most of the pledges I'm seeing, they're wonderful, but they are inward focused. Yes, we want to, me, a GE, I want to be a PE. Me, a PE, I want to get work. Ini tumbo zetu. Have we seen what an engineer was created to do? We have problems. People don't have food. Locusts have come and eaten all that food. Yeah? We have mothers who cannot get to maternity ward, and they die because the roads are bad. We don't have power, cheap and power. Women walk miles to get water. To me, let us remember the noble profession called engineers, even as we continue trying to strengthen our organization. Our relevance, which is in our strategic plan, is something we must keep at the heart of everything we are doing. So now, I'll just quickly say my pillars. I think you've seen, I'm going to circulate my poster. I hope it will get through. And I'm standing for 5 of them. Start with what we are calling, I'll call it local content, but really it's all about our stomachs. We don't have enough work. The workload in Kenya, a lot of it is going to the foreigners. We must change that narrative. The second one is GEs. I don't want to repeat it. We are very concerned. To be honest, all of us in our own ways have been doing all we can to have more GEs. In Kenya Roads Board, we have a GE program. I think we have a batch of 30 we are taking this year. So I think all of us are concerned about this. Yeah? Thank you. Which are the other 3? Governance. Our institution cannot be run well because it is Engineer Jane or Engineer Matalanga sitting there. We must leave an institution that is so strong, anybody trying to touch it, we say no. This is not, you're not going to serve this institution. And then I was going to say, of course, we're trying to do our strategic plan. We are proud, we are very proud. One deliverable from this team that you have was a strategic plan. Please let us implement that strategic plan wholly. It is very good. It covers all that we are talking about here. Diversity, this is where I'll end. I think we must look at our neighbors, and everybody look around. We look different, right? But we are one team, and we are serving one humanity. So kindly, I'm going to wind up. I ask that we also try to include all of us. We have women here, we have people from marginalized places. Let us always work towards that. And I like the devolution, the Mashinani way. So having said that, I'm going to plead and actually ask you to consider very kindly, myself or my worthy Engineer Uma here, we want to serve you. Our hearts are in the right place. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Engineer Margaret Ogai. Thank you so much, Engineer Margaret Ogai. I would now like to call upon Engineer Stephen Auma, who is also contesting for the same position. Kindly, Engineer Stephen Auma. Kindly, Engineer Stephen Auma, the floor is yours.
Members of the distinguished profession of engineering from South Rift Branch, members of the current council of IEK, candidates for the forthcoming elections of IEK, good afternoon. I don't think I will say a lot, only to, first of all, thank the organizers of this function for inviting us to come and make a statement to you with regard to the forthcoming elections. My name is Engineer Steve Nauma. I'm a mechanical engineer, graduated from the University of Nairobi, and I'm glad that my classmate at the University of Nairobi, Engineer Abel Rotich, is here. Engineer Rotich, they were sponsored by Kenya Power when we were at the university. And Kenya Power used to deposit some money in the bookshop for the students they were sponsoring. So after we deplete our boom and were not able to buy books, we used to seek help from them. We could go to the bookshop and we take books on their account. So that is how we used to benefit from them. Regarding this election, I'm very happy that it has generated a lot of interest from members. I can remember in the past, those who are in the council used to just lobby and get people to get into the council because there was a lot of apathy. But right now, people are really scrambling to get into that. And that's a good thing. People should not take that one negative. That's a very positive indication that engineers have taken an interest in their institution. I was in a webinar last night. I know most of us were not able to join us because it was very late. But I have posted that clip in various social media platforms. So I would like to invite all of you. I think I've also posted it in your Telegram group. So I'd like to invite all of you to to watch that clip, because I explained a lot of things in that. I think there were 2 clips of 30 minutes each. So I did a lot in terms of explaining my position and how I would like our institution to be run. Briefly, I stand on what I call institutionalized governance through empowerment of the Secretariat. Right now, our institution is very weak on structures. We are depending on what I call the benevolence of the people who happen to be in leadership, which is very dangerous. And I think that's one of the reasons why people have a lot of interest in this election. Because some of us, or most of us, are afraid of certain candidates. If so and so happens to be there, we are doomed. And that should not happen. So I want us to have structures, institutional structures and procedures, which, regardless of who becomes the president of IEK, cannot be changed. The person who happens to go there will have to operate in accordance with those structures. So I am appealing to you to allow us to have those structures. So in pursuing that policy, I stand on 4 pillars. The first one is what I call institutionalism, which is what I've just explained. That if we have strong institutional structures, then we don't need to be worried about who becomes the president. Secondly is empowerment of the Secretariat. Because once we have strong structures, then we should now allow the Secretariat to run the institution. using or being guided by the policies formulated by the council. Right now, it is the council that is running IEK, which is not a good governance practice because these people are not full-time. They are running their business elsewhere or they are employed elsewhere. So they cannot run the institution the way it should be run. The institution should be run by the Secretariat. So the Secretariat must be empowered after we have established those structures. And then the third pillar is my passion. And that is what I am calling unfinished business. I happen to be the secretary of the Constitutional Review Committee of IEK. It is a committee composed of dedicated engineers. We have done a lot of work, and we have produced a draft. We have produced a draft, which is just awaiting the council so that it can be presented to them for adoption and then taken to members for endorsement. So it is unfinished because it has not been actualized. When we went into the committee, it was our hope and expectation that these elections were going to be held under the new constitution. But that was not possible for various reasons, which I attempted to explain in the webinar. So I would like to have that constitution enacted so that we can operate on a new institutional dispensation. And the last one is what I call paperless operations culture. Right now, when we go for a meeting at IK, there's a black book where we sign attendance, and then they usually give us some allowance. I think it's 2,000 shillings. Again, there's some pieces of paper which we sign. I want our institution to operate 100% on paperless operations. So once we have that, it will be cheap, it will be efficient, and all members will get the services that they deserve from the council. So on 23rd of March, I urge all of us to turn out and vote for candidates of your choice. And for the position of Honorary Secretary, I urge you to vote for Engineer Stephen Auma. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Engineer Stephen Auma. The last time I want to call upon now I want to call upon for the position of first Vice President, and now we are blessed to have two. I'll call upon Engineer Lucy Wanjiku to come and give her inputs also.
Okay. Hello everyone, to my seniors, to my mentors, and to my fellow colleagues, good afternoon. I have a question. How many of us would still continue drinking the water you're drinking if you were told it was reclaimed from wastewater or sewage? Wow. I see even engineers need convincing. So my name is Engineer Lucy Wanjiku Mutinda. What brings the ugali on my table is recycling sewage back to clean water. And I would love to work with a lot of you wherever people are not connected to municipal sewer. Now, back to IEK business. I am going for first Vice President, and it's a passion that is coming from within me. And I have a story to tell to explain why I am going for this. I was part of the functions committee for 2 years, and in 2017, before I became a PE, I actually volunteered in the functions committee. So I've been sitting in a lot of meetings with my seniors, and the president always referred to me as digital or EOT. Like anytime he needed me to say a point, he would just say digital tuambie. So a few years ago, when I was 27 years old, through the click of a button, I got to find myself in Germany to an opportunity that was rigorous. The application was so rigorous.
And I got to the land where I always dreamed about, to get to learn about engineering and the opportunities that exist there. That process was more rigorous than the IEK registration process, and it required attaching a long report and a lot of our documents that we use. Apart from my training in Germany that was called International Leadership and Management Training, I have been privileged to land myself in other prestigious trainings like Women in STEM in Silicon Valley, in the high-end unicorn companies like LinkedIn, Silicon, Facebook, almost meeting Mark Zuckerberg. I have found myself in Sweden studying sustainability and responsible business. Wow. And at the click of a button, I continue to do a lot of advanced trainings that help me to run my business and to mentor others. I know you're wondering, why am I saying all this? I'm just trying to show why I'm so passionate about digitization. Digitization landed me in the land of opportunities. Digitization has landed me to just have the embassy of Germany, the Swedish embassy, the American embassy. I just have them at the click of my button. So through digitization, I have a rich network full of opportunities. I've been able to transfer technology from Germany and solve a local problem on sewer recycling. I've been able to employ a few number of GEs, almost landing at 10, and currently I'm mentoring about 3 because I only became a PE 2 years ago, so I only started mentoring for registration 2 years ago. So what I'm trying to tell you is the humongous opportunities that exist at the click of a button is what I need to bring into IEK and help it tap to go to the next level that we are looking at. I've been able to create opportunities. I have this network. For me, the embassies, the 3 embassies that I'm an alumnus of, are just at the click of a button. I'll tell you what exists in in Germany, for example, for our Gs. There's a lot of DAD scholarships. There is a lot of short-term trainings. There is a lot of scholarships for women in STEM. I want to bring all this and bring cooperation between IEK and all these bodies so that we can bring opportunities just at the click of a button. Everybody owns a smartphone nowadays. We do not own feature phones anymore. So I believe all of you would love to just have your registration right at the click of your button. For me, the click of the button is the magic enabler of all the pillars these people have talked about. So on the 23rd of October, vote Lucy for digitization. And one thing I have to remind you, I am very passionate about environmental conservation. I am professionally trained in Sweden on sustainability, the home of sustainability. So sustainability is not just about the environment. It's about living responsibly right now so that the future generations do not suffer how they will live because you depleted their resources. So as an instance, sustainability in IEK means that if they are not here tomorrow, we will still be able to continue, and the students we spoke to in the university yesterday will still be able to come and continue and serve in their engineering capacity very well. So for me, sustainability is about the environment, how we execute our business, and how we make sure there is continuity in the institution and in the engineering profession. So I bring to you visible, empowered engineers with a sustainable impact. On the 23rd of October, go for me, choose your candidates of choice, but remember me for digitization, visibility, and sustainable impact. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Engineer Lucy Wanjiku. Now I would like to call upon Engineer Abel Rotich.
Good evening, engineers. My name is Engineer Abel Rotich, engineer turned politician. Today, we shall all try to take you to the moon, but if we end up delivering you to Zanzibar, we all say hallelujah. At least we tried, and hopefully recite my motto, together we can do more. So, what do I intend to do if you choose me as your first vice president? The first item that I look at is 100% mentorship and structure training. And this is very possible. The way it can be possible is that we'll actually do partnerships and MOUs with industrialists, with individual consultants, with institutions, and I'm sure engineers will get a good share. The second item that I would like to us to consider is when you go to religious places, you can't preach to people who are hungry. You have to ensure they are fully fed first before you preach to them. So even if we go to our meetings and so forth, and we don't have a good share of our economy, we are not moving anywhere, 40%. If we ensure that all of us get a cut on those 40% that is actually anchored in the act, we will be there. And we'll talk. You can't talk when you're not fed. You should be strong, either by hook or crook, we shall arrive there. The other item, this, we have our members who are not, who are in our society. We call them special groups. Let's think about them, because we have to balance. Let's think about them as we move on as engineers. Now, the other item I would like us to look at is how can we empower the branches and even people in this, Mandera, for example, Moyale. Can we decentralize? Can we work on these leaders if we arrive, including me if I arrive there? Work on me so that we deliver even up to 40% of the strength of our finances to the branches, so that we move together as a team. And together, I know we can. And seeing South Rift, you would be the guys to spearhead this. And behind you people will work together and deliver part of this to the branches. The other item that I'm looking at is sponsorship through businesses for our conferences, for our forums. I know there are people out there that if they know we have good forums to sell their products, they'll be willing to partner with us. There are companies, we used to have a magazine called IEK. I don't know what happened. It died. Can somebody explain? So how do you intend to ask industry to come and give you money to sponsor you when you cannot put them visible? How do you do that? Can I promise you, take me there and I'll bring back this magazine. By there I'm looking to become a governor in future, so. Only that I have to perfect the way I deliver my messages. I'm still looking at it. The final point that I have, because I had already shared earlier, is networking. If you don't network and you just stay inside your house, nobody will think about you. Kenya will move on, others will move on, they'll network and move ahead. What is stopping us from networking? These are the best brains in the country, the people who have the know-how you can deliver in all ways, including calculations and whatever way, to deliver networking. You can only survive if you network. And I can know we have brains here that can consult in the region, can even consult outside the world. The only thing we are missing is how to network. Give this chance to Engineer Aberotich. And you guys, you network and I'll deliver you to the moon. Let me not take a lot of our time. I'm actually requesting to be voted in for the post of the first vice president. And if I don't get it, I also promise I'll do my best to drive, because the dream is to deliver this institution. It's not about the individual. So thank you so much and be pleasant.
Thank you so much, Engineer Aberotich, for those good points. Now we are going to the second part of our program. And I will ask our chair, our presidents, candidates vying for president, just to say hi to members. Kindly say hi to members. These are candidates who are vying for the position of president. And now I'll just ask them to just tell us their names so that we can get to know them. Then we go to the second part of the program, where we'll be doing now the debate. So kindly, Engineer Matalanga. You have your mic on.
Nathaniel. My name is Nathaniel Matalanga, as you've been told. I'm currently the Honorary Secretary of the Institution of Engineers of Kenya, vying for the position of president. I'm a civil engineer. I'm a consulting structural engineer for the last 30 years. So I don't have to talk about mentorship through my office. Very many people have passed and they are now corporate members and they are PEs in this country. I was just told to send my name, but you all know that I've been at the center of the transformation that we are enjoying now. You also all know that I was at the center of the Constitutional Amendment 2015, that now we are trying to update and ensure that it's up to date. Thank you very much, and I hope unlike Lucy, who wants to be voted the first VP on 23rd of October, on the 23rd of March, Engineer Matalanga will be the president of IEK. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Engineer Nathaniel Matalanga. Our election will be on 23rd of March for the purpose of record. And I would like now to introduce Engineer Jen Mtulili to also say something small, then we'll call upon Engineer Howard.
I think mine is working. Good evening, everyone. My name is Engineer Jen Mtulili. I'm vying for the position of the president of this great institution. I have been the first vice president, and I want to move up. I wanted Engineer Matalanga, as I'm speaking to him, there's something that my friend Engineer Steve Auma said about the current secretariat that were not exactly correct. So I wanted the honorary secretary to debunk that, as Maggie would say, before we move. Can he do that, please? I don't want to say that because it was in my docket. Thank you.
Sorry, well, there's no problem with the secretariat. You know, IEK has systems, we have a constitution, and we've tried to run with it. I think the challenge has been the secretariat, the capacity of the secretariat. And when we started in 2018, we've grown the secretariat from a staff of 3 to now, I think, 8. Through the strategic plan, we have embarked on the recruitment of staff. And as we speak now, all the deputy staff positions have been filled. So the next council will have to start the process of filling those positions. So we have a system. It's not that it depends on me. And even, you know, the best country in the world, I think the UK, I don't think they have a written constitution. The constitution is only as good as the leadership. So we cannot go away from the fact that IEK deserves good leaders. And I'm very happy to be here, and I'm very happy to see the list of the people who are running for these positions. I'm sure on the 23rd of March, out of that election, we're going to get a very serious group of people to take us to the next level. All they require from me will be to give them guidance and direct them from where we have to ensure that we don't go back there. So we cannot run away from the fact that once you have systems in place, then the institution will run by its own. There are countries in Africa, when they got independent, like Zimbabwe, I'm sure they had a very good constitution. Where is it now? So we still need good leaders, trusted, ethical people who will take our members forward. I think that's why Madam VP wanted me to clarify. And I think from here, I know, since I have been at the center of IEK, interested in what was happening there. Since 2011, I became an ordinary council member for the first time, 2014, 2015. 2015, 2016, I was the honorary secretary. I was rigged out, 2016, 2018. I say this without fear of contradiction. I have talked and I explained the process when I was given a chance on webinar. What happened was very clear. I don't have to repeat it here. The clip is there, and Dolo, I think, has reshared it several times. What happened is known to everyone because the matter went to court and all the materials were laid bare. It is things that are in the public domain. So 2018, through proper electronic pushed by members, we have managed to do a good election. And we can compare the history of IEK with the history of Kenya. When elections are rigged, and I'm very serious, because people have told me, Engineer, I think we need to take IEK to the national level. Because if we can do our things in this country the way engineers are doing them, then this country will be very good.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
You took longer than I expected.
Thank you so much, Engineer Nathaniel Matalanga. I will now want to call Team Visibility to the podium. I'll call upon Engineer Howard Momanyi.
Thank you, Abdi. Thank you for this session. Thanks, Team South Rift, and thanks, my seniors. Every time you speak before me, it gives me butterflies. But because I declared to vie against you, I have to live up to the task. In South Rift is one of those branches that resonate with Team Visibility. You know, I live and work in Coast. When you're in Mombasa, Coast branch is big, both in the number of corporate members, graduate members, as well as any other membership than South Rift. But if you are in Mombasa, you feel a giant speaking from Nakuru. But that is the power of visibility. The power is in stealing the show. Now, this minute is for me to introduce myself, but I don't know how far I'm supposed to introduce myself because my seniors have very long CVs. I've lived a much shorter time than them. My name is Engineer Howard. I am a graduate of Jomo Kenyatta University. I joined Jomo Kenyatta together with Luke Toroitich. We graduated at the same time. I did civil engineering. I've specialized in 2 different areas. One in the area of geotechnical engineering, materials and foundations. It's one area that I'm very comfortable in, but I've also specialized in construction contracts and dispute resolution. I've worked for 1 year as humanitarian engineer, worked for 6 years in consultancy as an employee, worked for 7 years in government to a senior level of deputy regional director, and also worked for another parallel 8 years in consultancy as an employer, and another 8 years as a trainer, a coach, and a teacher of engineering and disputes. Some of you have started calculating my age. Please don't. Please don't. The number of young people who have passed through my hands through training and coaching should count not less than 1,000. And they cut across construction professionals, from quantity surveyors, construction managers, and lawyers. I'm really proud of myself. And I know when I declared that I want to be president, it was not premised on the fact that Engineer Matalanga and Jen are bad people. These are tremendous people. They're really great people. When Engineer Margaret Ogai was recognizing them, she couldn't recognize me because she would have given me accolades I don't deserve. I've never been on the council. I've been a foot soldier. She promised she will recognize me in another place. I can guess where she wanted to recognize me because I've been a very good foot soldier. And I treat these people as my seniors, my parents. They send me, I run. Jen knows this, and Matalanga knows this. He's a champion of transformation. But every time he was championing transformation, we were always doing the foot soldiering. When we have to bring the most controversial motions, we will be bringing them from the bench, and he will be bringing them from here. But this is part of the entire vision of the Institute. We are one institute, and we must push this institute forward, all of us together. That's why one of my pillars is cohesion. I'll not go further than that in my introduction because I know we are having a debate after this, and I believe many other questions will come up. But at least for the first time, I've answered the question like what my senior engineer Abel Rotich asked. When we met for the first time, he said, "Howard, I've seen your face, but who are you?" At least I've answered that, haven't I? Thank you.
Thank you so much, Engineer Howard. Now, for the purpose, we are going to go to the debate. Now, we want to give them a few minutes so that they also take water and prepare very well. So we are going to go for a short break of 3 minutes maximum. Kindly let's allow them also to prepare. Thank you so much.
I've just been given the go-ahead. We'll just start off. I'll introduce myself. My name is Luke Toroitich. I'm a member of South Rift Branch, based here in Nakuru. And I'll proceed to introduce my colleague. Let her introduce herself.
My name is Evelyn Danya. Also a member of South Rift IEK, but based in Baringo County. And welcome today, both to our online viewers and also to the guys who are here.
Thank you very much, my co-host, Engineer Ndenya. We are all engineers in this room, and we'd like to start straight away. Just for the record, we are trending on Twitter on the hashtag IEK presidential debate. You are free to ask questions on this hashtag. And we have the Twitter handles for our contestants at jen.mutilili, at amhoward3, and at nmatalanga. So to start us off, I know we've done the preliminaries, but for the sake of the record, we'd like to start from the very top. And members will be able to follow this. If you have any questions, just post them on the Twitter handle, and then we'll be able to lift them up. Maybe just to set how we are going to do it, we will give you some timelines, contestants, and when you hear the ringing of the bell, you have 30 seconds to complete your sentence. We would not want you to forget the full stop. And that's why we give you the grace period of 30 seconds to complete your sentence. So I'll request my colleague Ndenya to start us with the first question. And the contestants, you'll be able to, will reply to that question, all of us, in sequence. Let's start with the ladies first. We'll start with Jane Mutulili, so that you can start us this discussion. Over to you, my co-host.
Welcome to the candidates. And our first question, some of you have already answered it, but feel free to add a little more for us to know who you really are. So who are you, and why do you want to be the next IEK president? And why you and not the other two that are seated next to you? Remember, you have 5 minutes to do this, so make it count.
Thank you very much. My name is Engineer Jane Mutulili. I've been the first Vice President of the Institution of Engineers of Kenya. Just a brief of myself. I did civil engineering at the University of Nairobi. I graduated in 1990. I worked for the Nairobi City Council in the Water and Sewerage Department for 10 years. Within those 10 years, I got my registration in EBK and IEK. From there, I left. I joined Kenya Pipeline for about 2 years. I left that. I joined Kenyatta University for another 1.5 years. I left that, and I went to the refugee camps, that is Dadaab and Kakuma, where I also stayed for 2 years. That is a total of about 16 years. I've been working for about 30 years. So in between, I started my own company. Things happened. So in between that, I stopped. I started the company. I worked there for 3 years. I stopped. I got a job. Worked for another 6 years. Now I'm back to the company, and I'm happy to be there. My social life, and that is the IEK life. I joined the council in 2012, and I've been a member of the council. Initially, I was a nominated member, a co-opted member, then I was an elected member, and then all this at the time I've been an elected member, and I was elected as an ordinary member, and then the first vice president in the previous council. No, the second vice president in the previous council. Now I'm the first vice president in this council, aspiring to become a president. Within the council, right now I'm the chair of membership committee. I am also in capacity building. Being the vice president, you also get into in many of the other committees. But I'm also proud to say that since the women chapter was formed in 2014, I have been a member of that committee all this time. Previously, I was a chair of a functions committee, a function that I really enjoyed because we managed to get many engineers together, many functions together, not as many as we would have wanted, but we brought many of them together. In the last council, what have we achieved, and why do I still want to continue being in the council? I think one of the biggest problem for engineers was the visibility for engineers by engineers. Previously, a conference, an international conference, attended by 150 to 250 was very well attended. In the last conference that we did in September, we had 1,280 attendance, and that was the biggest so far. Yesterday, those of us who were with us during the walk, the registration was over, at least the previous day, I know we had registered over 1,200 people. And by yesterday, we had so many other people who came to register on site. So we must have been probably over 1,300 who are working with us, and those were engineers. In the year before then, the conference, we had about 700 people. So we are taking leaps and moving places. We've done a lot of visibility for the engineers by the engineer, or by the engineers for the engineer. What we need to do, and what we probably is we are still lagging behind, is the visibility of the engineer for the rest of the country, for the common Wananchi, for Wanjiko. It is so good for us to sit here and say what it is we want to do for the engineer, but what are we doing for the other person? One of the things that I would want to see done is the engineer to be known. Everybody in this country should know a person who knows a person who knows an engineer, so that every time you want to put a two-story building, you actually can, you know, somebody who can direct you to somebody who can direct you to do that, the right thing. We have very many failing buildings because of that, and it's because of the ignorance of the people. It's not because, it's because we are probably not there for them. So that's one of the things, and that is in my, if you checked my poster, it was the visibility for the engineer, not just for ourselves, not just to get the numbers in conferences and in everything else, within the county, within the country, and everything else. Towards this, I would like, and I hope in the next 2 years when I become the president, that we will be able to visit. We have 47 counties. We should be able to visit every county as IEK to do in the previous council, but there was so much else to be done that, as I said, visibility amongst ourselves so that we get the numbers to do that. The next one is the 40% content. We have a lot of influx of foreigners within our space. We need to stop that, and as we stop that, that will deal with training for the graduate engineers so that they can transition to the next one. So when we tackle the work for the engineers, the trained engineers, it almost helps everybody else. Thank you so much. 23rd of March, I'd like your vote. Thank you.
Thank you, Engineer Jane. I'd like to invite Engineer Howard to go ahead and answer the question.
Thank you, Evelyn. My name is Engineer Howard. I already made an elaborate introduction of myself. I'm standing for visibility, for cohesion, for growth, and for compliance. But because the question asked us to say why we think we are better than the other candidates, I'll go straight to that. Because if you ask my colleagues, they understand clearly that the stage where we are as an institution, we are now an institution that is hungry for visibility. We've gone through a lot of transformation, which several people in the institution, including my seniors here, have been champions of. We've gone through constitutional cycles. We've gone through generational cycles. We've gone through cultural cycles. But right now, the next phase of the growth of the institution we are going to is a phase of visibility or getting ourselves known out there. How I look at it is that there is something that Jen has mentioned about visibility amongst ourselves. We are still doing very poorly, because if you go to campus today, some young engineers ask questions until you feel very annoyed. Somebody has graduated from campus, they still don't understand why they need to register with their regulator or why they need to register with the members club. It means that we are still doing very, very badly as far as our visibility and our relevance to ourselves is concerned. But most disappointingly is the experience that was encountered yesterday when a kid in the exercise for mentoring yesterday, a kid from high school saying that my mother, she asked the mother why it is Chinese who are the engineers building the roads, and she wanted to understand why, and the mother says it's because Kenyan engineers are not properly trained. But you can't blame them, because Kenyan engineer has been totally hidden. He's hidden from his clans, he's hidden from himself, he's hidden from the people who are aspiring to be engineers, and this has been very deliberate with the way we've been cultured. If you look at my colleagues, they were born in the generation of the administrative generation, where orders were coming from only one place, and everybody says, yes, sir. People are cultured that way. They are incapable of breaking the ceiling and going out there and exposing themselves. Our generation is totally different. Ours, we were born in the generation of, the other one was administrative. Ours is political, where power shifts from the administrator to the politician. If you are the politician and you make your own space, you have all the room to go out there and get your product put out there like a typical marketer will do. If I come here and I want South Rift to see me, I will arrive here with my banner out there, with my flyers, and I will be shouting loud. It's not just about people knowing that you are here. It's about people internalizing and asking themselves questions, like the question that my senior Abel was asking himself, who is this Howard? I like such kind of questions. Those questions need to come from everybody, from school children, from villagers, from other professionals, our counterpart professionals. The advocates need to be asking themselves, who are these engineers? What are they about? How do they get into our spaces? Today, we are already almost in this, we are going to the 7th year of devolution. But still, engineering as an institution and as a family has not stamped the authority in devolved units. These are the kind of things we would like to do. In summary, I would like to give engineering a face and a voice like never before.
Thank you. Thank you, Engineer Howard. I'd like to welcome Engineer Matalanga.
Thank you very much. My name is Nathaniel Matalanga, as I said. I'd like to introduce someone very special in the room, my dear wife, Sylvia, please. You can wave at the crowd. Thank you very much. The question is, why me? As I explained earlier, I am a structural engineer practicing in Kenya. I'm in the private sector. When I left university in 1989, I joined a firm of consulting engineers called Gordon, Melvin and Partners. This is an old company. This company is the one that designed the KICC. So I worked up the ladder until I became a partner. Then I was sent to Uganda. When I was working in Uganda, the company in Kenya decided to fold up, and therefore, instead of continuing in Uganda, I decided to come home. Why do I want to lead IEK? Because you asked me, and I think I'm the most qualified, because and I'll explain. When you want to lead the people, you have to want to do some change. And my attraction to IEK was based on that fact that you want to do something. I explained earlier in the webinar that I used to attend IEK functions and make a lot of contribution until one day Engineer Collins Juma, the current president of IEK, followed me into the basement and asked me to consider joining the council so that I could try to implement those decisions. And then we realized that time that the only way we could change IEK is to change the election rules, which was then under the old constitution. It was section 9. I know people are talking about the current constitution 2015 amendments as if it's a bad constitution. The constitution was really bad because for you to go up the ladder, that's why Madam Jen says she was nominated by a council, then her initial nomination form went out, it said council nominee. When I was asked to join council, I never was nominated by any council. I went out to the members and they nominated me, and we wanted to get a new constitution, and the only way Collins told me you would get that changed is to get people selected by members to join the council, and the dynamism that you are seeing now could happen. And I'm very happy that I can see it. And I have been at the center of what has been happening since the clamor for the constitution reaching the climax in 2015 when we had a special general meeting in December and we got that constitution. That was my major achievement as honorary secretary that time, because the first time when I was ordinary council member, the council was very rigid. We tried to get that constitution. It was that hard until I got to the seat of the secretary, and I realized that being the honorary secretary, you are basically in charge of IEK. So whatever you're doing, if you get a bad honorary secretary, then whatever you're talking about, you need someone who will put it up together. The secretariat are employees. They need a lot of direction. They do whatever you want. We are lucky now, we have a lady CEO who is an engineer and quite a corporate member of IEK. Then we had a messenger and an accounts clerk. So you can imagine how tough it is. We went through, we fought for it. I'm sure all of us have listened to it, and I was able to deliver that constitution. Then I tried to stay on to try to implement it, but I explained earlier we got rigged out in 2016. In 2015, I was very happy. So we've tried to implement that constitution 2015 until 2020. I have been at the center of what has been happening at IEK, and if you ask these kinds of members, the President calls me Chief of Staff. Why are you on this item? And I have to rise up to the occasion. Our President is a CEO of NUPIA, and NUPIA is a very busy position. So you need someone who is able to implement and push the institution forward. And I think I have been up to it. This branch is my baby. Those of you know we had a meeting at Intercontinental Hotel, and is one of the things I'm very happy to see, that the branch that I dreamed of, the branch that I pleaded with Kamau and Collins Chongole to form, is now a real branch. And today you have your officials. On the 9th of April, we shall be able to add you to the list of IEK officials that we shall send to the AG's office for registration. And after that, you can have your own bank account, you can have your autonomous things. So for me, I feel that now, because of the dynamism and the democracy that we created, we need someone who understands what has happened so that we don't lose direction. So tested leadership, guaranteed continuity of transformation, and I will ensure that we mentor these people who are going to be elected so that we guarantee that leadership in IEK. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, our candidates. We'd now want to proceed to the next set of questions. And members, just to remind you, this is a live event, and we are picking up your questions from the Twitter handle under the hashtag IEK presidential debate. You can follow us on Twitter at IEK South Rift. Now, to our contestants, and this time I'd like to start with the Engineer Howard. In your view, what ails the Kenyan engineer and engineering profession in general in Kenya? You have each of the contestants, you will have 2 minutes to answer that question.
The Kenyan engineer has got many ailments, but I decided to focus on the one of living in hiding. You wield so much power, you hold a lot of resources, you basically hold people's health and safety in your hands. People's lives depend on the Kenyan engineer, but nobody's aware how dependent they are on a Kenyan engineer. When they have to wake up in the morning and they need to get a meal, there is a power engineer behind the scenes who is ensuring that this meal is fixed. There is a mechanical engineer somewhere who ensures that there is some energy or gas somewhere. There is a civil engineer who ensures that there is a road for him to get to work. There is a mechanical engineer who ensures that there is a vehicle to take him from home to work. But this public, despite the fact that they benefit from engineering, they are completely unaware of the presence of engineers, and you cannot mistake them when they find anybody putting on PPEs on the road, including a foreman and even a casual laborer, and calling them engineers. Unfortunately, this problem is not only with the common mwananchi, but even with leaders. You'll find somebody in a position as high as a governor who cannot tell between a casual laborer in PPEs and an engineer, and that's disastrous for us.
Thank you very much. Let's give him a round of applause. So the same question also to Engineer Matalanga, and then finally Engineer Matulili.
Thank you very much. I don't think there is anything ailing the Kenya engineer. The problem has been ourselves. The process I've explained is that the earlier leadership took away the publicity from the engineer. And we were also denied growth. You know, unless this country, and we've been told many times that we need to claim our space ourselves. No one is going to do it for us. We need numbers. We are now 3,000 corporate members of IEK out of a population of how many? Find out the ratio of the population to an engineer. How many people can you serve? So it is very clear that with the low numbers, we cannot even be visible. So we need to grow numbers. And that's why the last council undertook to try to have an accelerated transition. We need as many graduate people, all children graduating in engineering, all graduates from engineering schools should go through a structured training program to ensure that they transition and become PE. Then when we become numbers, we are huge and we have the critical mass, then we can claim our space. So everywhere, when you go to your home, when you go to your village, there will be someone who is an engineer there. But if we are few, of course, we all run to towns. We all are stationed at the county government, and no one will know us. So my assessment is that our ailment was ourselves. So we need to remove that, and that's why what we are doing in this room is very important. We are supposed to come up with a group of people who are going to cure that ailment. I don't think we have any problem from outside. You know, we are talking about 40% local content. You know, we have misunderstood this thing completely. Nothing requires 40% local content from a local contract. Local contract should be done by us. Why are we talking about 40% local content? The 40% local content is only for externally funded projects. So we need to rise up and say, tell our governor, tell the people giving out these projects that we have 100%. Then we can fight over the 40% local content with sponsored projects. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Let's give him a round of applause. Our sincere apologies for that technical hitch. Our sound team is working on it. We want to apologize because we wanted you to get all the questions as clearly as possible. Now, the next session, we also have our candidate who is also supposed to give us an answer to that question. Kindly.
Hello. Okay. What ails our Kenyan engineer? I'd like to just put our Kenyan engineer into 3 categories. We have the engineer who works for the public sector. One of the problems with the engineers with the public sector is actually upward mobility. And I do know that once you get there, to move to the next level and the next level and the next level is very difficult. So that is one of the things that we need to look at and find out why that does not happen. The next one, within also the public engineer, talking about the public engineer, there's been a cut on employment. When you go to, for example, Athiwater, the number of engineers who are in Athiwater are about 12 registered engineers. And a few, actually they're not all registered. The people who are actually employed by Athiwater are 12 engineers. They are doing mega projects, but the cap on employment by the public service, cut for everybody. They're not going to employ HR staff, they're not going to employ procurement staff, they're not going to employ engineers, and that does not resonate with the project that we are doing. So that is a problem that needs to be solved. We are talking about the employees of the consultants. So the private sector now, we have the employees of those private sector, the consultants. They're not being paid well. Why are they not being paid well? Before I get to that, let me get to the consultant. The consultant, the jobs that we're having for the consultants, they've been curtailed. When we talk about the 40% contract, because most of the projects that are being done, the mega projects are being done, they've been put in such a way that they are the only consultants who can qualify for those ones are the external people. So that is something that needs to be done. And also the local projects, then they should be done. Consultants should be paid. And when that is done, then everybody will be happy. GEs will be trained and they'll be able to move up. And that will solve the engineering problem.
Thank you very much. Let's give them a round of applause. We are doing well on time, and I'd like to hand over to my colleague to ask the set of questions.
Remember to keep asking your questions use the hashtag IEK presidential debate. There'll be a moment where we'll get to ask the questions, so keep them coming. The third question we have, you've all mentioned different challenges, or not, of what is ailing the engineer in Kenya. So in the event that you do become the IEK president, how will you address some of these challenges that you have mentioned? And you have 5 minutes to give us your answer, your best answer. I'll start with Engineer Matalanga.
Thank you very much. As I said, in my own assessment, the challenges we seem to be facing are our own made. We have a bit of lost focus of how we need to encourage all of us to be practicing engineers, reach that level, and be there for each other. So the first thing I will do, I will lobby the national government and the county government to create jobs for engineers. Whether you are a graduate, or you are a corporate member, or you are a PE, or you are even a fellow, consulting engineers. We need to lobby that government jobs, as I said, jobs that are financed by our own tax. Why are we talking about local content? All these jobs should be 100% ours. So you lobby that they should be, the tender documents that are done, you should not be able to award those jobs to these foreigners, the Chinese. You know, they have come here with the pretext that, yes, we are financing these jobs. But in the process, they are now bidding. Even some private people are giving them work. So we need to lobby that all the work is done by us. And now when you, a corporate member or a PE, has a graduate working under, you need to ensure that you have a structured training program for him. You follow what the engineers board has tabulated, so that at the end of time, maybe the 3-year minimum period that they have talked about, this graduate becomes a PE. I personally finished university and I said I joined a private firm. I finished university in 1989 and I became a PE in 1993. So what has changed? Why can't we do that? My classmates, most of them, they were already jobs with government. Then things went down south and then the government stopped employing engineers. Now we are saying, oh, there are Chinese here. But the government itself has not changed that structure, that we need to employ our people. So we need to lobby that government agencies, county governments have jobs for engineers. And then we have a structured training program, whatever engineers board is telling us. And yesterday it was proclaimed, you saw the chairman of EBK saying he's willing to work with IEK. So we are like his foot soldiers to ensure that whatever he's he's regulating, is there for him. Because as a regulator, you also don't want to regulate. The only thing you're regulating is curtailing people, like removing them from the register, or just negative regulation. You need to nurture them. So for me, that is the way I go. I will go I know I will continue working, and I will get the new mandate on 23rd of March, and we shall continue that way to ensure that progress is attained for all our members. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Engineer Matalanga. Engineer Jane.
Thank you very much. I think what Engineer Matalanga has said basically covers what should be done. Kenya engineers should get jobs. I mean, there is no question about that. Even as we talk about 40% content, 40% content is to the jobs that must be given to foreigners, because we get funding from outside and it comes with conditions. There are some jobs that come and we look at them and we try questioning that, and we are told that is actually the condition of the funding. So we may not be able to do anything about that, but our constitution allows us to make sure that any of those jobs, and the job that they're giving us is not, for example, when you're doing a water supply project, and the job you want to give the engineer is the ESIA, that is the impact assessment. It is good to do that, but we have the water project that should be done by the engineers. So that should be done so that we are able to train our own people. The other thing that is actually a problem with us, I wasn't able to say that in the last question, was payments. How is it that if we combine all the people who work for the government, the consultants and even individuals, how much money are they being paid? How is it that you find that somebody has not been paid? Somebody has done so much work, they are not able to pay their employees because the government has not paid them. And yet, when we have the foreigners working for us, they are paid on time. So that is another thing that we need to discuss with the payments, the people, the procuring authority. We need to discuss with them so that people are paid on time. Structured training. As he said, I left university about the same time with them. What did you call us? Yes.
Generation administration.
Generation administration. Well, I'm proud to be that generation. But during that time, we were able to get jobs and we were able to be trained. Can we get that back structure training? As I said, the government has a duty to employ people. And once you get employed, you can't put an embargo on the engineers. We don't have enough. Atiwater does not have enough engineers. And therefore, and you've actually said that you can't employ the procurement officer, you can't employ the HR, and you can't employ the engineer. I don't think that is a fair whatever. So that is something that should be looked at. Yeah, I think once those ones are done, the counties, you find the counties that the people who are actually heading the critical infrastructure dockets are not engineers. And what are they able to tell? You find, I was being told today about a few counties, starting from Nairobi County itself. The people who are heading the water docket, the roads docket, those are not engineers. So they have the people who are working under them who are the ones who are engineers. And yet you are the one in charge of that, whatever. You may not become the CEO, but surely you should be in charge of what you know. So once those ones are in place, and those are things that should be discussed, we are supposed to have a meeting with the governor, the council governors, the council of governors. We talked to Professor Kibuda Kibwana. We agreed that you're going to have a meeting with him. And those are the things that they need to know. I don't know whether they do that because they don't know or they don't want to do that. So once we put those structures in place, I think we'll be in a good place. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Still, Engineer Jane, since we have some time with you, you mentioned the problem about curtailed projects for the consultants. So how exactly would you be able to solve that problem as the IEK president?
Sorry, what was the question?
You mentioned about, you mentioned 3 sectors, the consultants. I'm talking about the consultants now.
Yes.
And you mentioned about curtailed projects for them. So how do you plan to solve that problem?
You know, the way the document for the contract document is done, the bidding document is done, some of it is done in such a way that when you look at it, you are sure that they are not targeting. For example, I like referring to the Isiolo, Moyale, Mandera Road. Kenha, and I really appreciate Kenha where he works, it actually broke it into 3 sections. So the whole of that, I think it was being done in 125 kilometers. That was done such that local engineers are able to do each a sector. When you bring that as one whole place, you know you've bundled it in one place, as one project. So you want somebody to do a project of 450 kilometers. We don't have a Kenyan firm that has been able to do that. So that means that when you put it like that, then it definitely goes to a whatever. We want those ones unbundled so that it's unbundled in such a way that you give it what the local engineer has. And that is the only way we can also build capacity for the local engineers and the local consulting firms.
Okay, thank you very much. On to you, Engineer Howard. Remember the question is, how do you plan to solve the challenges you mentioned?
Thank you. I will still go back to visibility. And I want us to be alive to the fact we cannot begin talking or conversing as though these jobs are not there and somebody is supposed to create them. When engineers are saying they don't have jobs, people are still building houses out there. I don't know whether you are seeing this. When we are still talking about jobs, roads are still under construction. Water projects are going on. Energy projects are going on. These projects are going on while engineers are still in hiding. You see, my colleague has mentioned that they have approached Professor Kibuda Kibwana to speak to him, to speak to the Council of Governors. It's interesting because as a private citizen, I've actually engaged with the Chairman Council of Governors, Governor Paranya. I've already spoken to him, and I've also spoken to the Secretariat Council of Governors. The reason I was speaking to them is because I was preparing for my presidency, and I was preparing for the vision of visibility. Why I was speaking to them unofficially is why I was speaking to them, I was just preparing a stage, because I'm seeing myself as a president that there should be no governors conference without engineers present. We have to be there in the governors conference. We have to pitch for engineers. You see, the reason why the governor goes to take a high school teacher to make them a CEC roads, it's because for all the years the governor has been here, they cannot still appreciate what difference it will make to get an engineer on board. Because the governor has grown up typically as a normal Kenyan, and he has also reasoning like everybody else that a casual laborer in PPEs is an engineer. The fundi went to his village to build a house, he's an engineer. We must paint the image of an engineer, and it should come out crystal clear in everybody's mind. The reason why I drew that parallel of the administrative generation and the political generation, let me tell you, today, if you have politics in your hands, you have all the strings to pull in your hands. Today, I don't have to be president of IEK to engage the chairman, the chairman council of governors, because I've already engaged him. I've already spoken to him. I've already secured a slot, okay? I become president on 24th, and the next council of governors, I'm taking the stage to pitch the position of engineers like never before. So that, because you see, in a conference like this, it brings together decision makers. Normally the president is hosted there, the CSs in the key ministries that handle infrastructure, they're all seated there. The people who legislate both at county and at national level, they're all seated there. And there is no better place, there is no better stage in this country to pitch for issues of engineering, both to the leaders and also to the public, than a podium like that. Of course, the engagement should not start and end with the podiums, but it has to go beyond that. It has to go to documentation. It has to go to boardroom engagements. But one take-home that I want every one of us to know, we cannot afford to continue staying in hiding. That must end. It must end now.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, members. I'd just like to switch on to Twitter. We have a communication from members who are watching. And Contos Benedict at Ben Contos is saying, for the first time, we are working and we are walking the talk as engineers. As engineers are discussing real issues that affect our profession. And also Francis Kinga on the Twitter handle at Kinga Francis is saying he is watching the debate and he's looking at these matters that are emerging from engineers. So I'd like just to pose a very interesting question. I throw in spanner into the works. Now, as engineers, I'd like to...
Excuse me, look,
yes.
Could I just chip in something?
Yes, yes, kindly.
Because I realized I've been very economical with my minutes. I've always been finishing without the bell. Just allow me to say something, because...
How much time do we give you?
1 minute should be enough.
Okay.
Because I just wanted to draw a parallel and connect visibility to numbers, as my senior had mentioned. You see, the moment people know the spaces that engineers occupy, the moment that graduate engineer, because most of the graduates are not transitioning, because people have been told so many lies, and nobody has been coming out to correct those lies. Those people who are supposed to correct those lies have also been in hiding. The moment this information comes forward, you will see a total change of numbers from students to graduates to PEs to CEs. I promise this.
Thank you very much. Let's give him a round of applause. Now, I'd like to throw in a spanner in the works, and to all of you. What role does a Kenyan engineer play in this outbreak of the coronavirus? So we can have just 2 minutes each from Engineer Matalanga, followed by Engineer Mutulili, then finally Howard.
Thank you very much. It is a tough question. We have suffered, maybe we don't realize it. I said it yesterday, that unfortunately, or fortunately because of the coronavirus, my first council meeting as an executive member of the World Federation of Engineering Organization that should be going on tomorrow was cancelled. So we, as a country, we lost the opportunity for me to be there, pushing our agenda as Kenya and as Africa. I was hoping I was going to push a lot of things so that by the time we were supposed to come back on Saturday, I was going to come with a lot of goodies. So the coronavirus has made us lose that opportunity as a country. The first time I had a chance to travel to Abuja, once I was WFEO member, I was at a meeting in Abuja, and they were discussing, can we have an infrastructure scorecard training to draw the infrastructure scorecard for Africa? So which country can host it? Since I was there, I offered Nairobi very quickly. And next week, on Thursday and Friday, we have the Royal Academy of Engineers coming here. We have the Commonwealth Engineering Council coming here to train our people, and I announced yesterday. So the coronavirus and lack of travel is hitting us hard. Down to my office, we do buildings. Now, all the building materials come from China. And you know that people travel to China to look for samples and come. And those now have stopped. If you try another source, it's expensive. That's how we are getting affected. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Let's give him a round of applause. So what solution does the engineer make apart from meetings being cancelled? Can we have an engineering solution to that? Can we use electricity to capture the bacteria, yeah, or that virus? What do you think in your in your innovative mind as an engineer? Because an engineer should always look for a solution to a problem. Yes, Engineer Matalanga, you still have some 30 seconds.
Thank you very much. As an engineer, I think innovation, and you have now realized that one of the ways of avoiding to get the coronavirus is to have a mask. And we can be innovative about the ways of doing things that don't allow physical transmission. And this innovation has to come from an engineer. We cannot wait for the doctor to get the medicine, because their research takes a lot of time and they have to try. By the time they try, all of us will have died. So as an engineer, I think we need to come up with innovative ways of stopping the transmission of the coronavirus, either by masking ourselves or other modes of travel, or what we are doing here. If we had known that the coronavirus was going to prevent travel, we could have had the webinar meetings. Yeah, so we need to be innovative and take advantage of what is happening.
Thank you very much. As you can see already, our members are able to watch this event live worldwide. So I think we are part of the solution. So Engineer Jane Mutilili, what's your reply to that?
Thank you very much. What can we do about that? I don't know whether we can come up with something new within the time that we have. I am a water engineer. I am a water and sanitation engineer. What we should do, and what we should do seriously, is encourage the washing hands. That is in our docket. So what we need to do is have enough hand washing facilities with soap. You know the way, I don't know how many of us are water engineers. So just enhance that within the places that are actually very low on sanitation. Those are some of the mandates of a wash engineer, to actually train people, encourage people, and just make sure every time we make a toilet, you make sure that the bathroom is actually outside the toilet. So right now what we should be doing is actually trying and getting ways to make the wash hand facilities available for everyone.
Okay, thank you very much. I think we can take a small break as they work on the sound. We can just take a small break and then we proceed. We pick up from that question. Thank you very much. Apologies for technical hitches that are arising.
1, 2. Mic testing. 1.
Ladies and gentlemen, please let's resume our seats. We are about to go back online. We continue with the debate. We are about to go online with the debate. Please let's come in. Let's come in. Let's get our seats. At least we've had a break. Tafadhali mabibi na mabwana, bado nawaona hapo nje. Tafadhali turejee viti vyetu. Tafadhali tuketi chini ili tuanze na tuendelee katika mjadala huu. Mjadala ambao ni wa kwanza kwa wahandisi wetu ambao wanatafuta viti vya urais. Tafadhali tuketi, tutulie, mabibi na mabwana, watu wangwana, wahandisi wa Kenya. Ladies and gentlemen, let us please resume our seats as we are about to go back online. Remember, we are trending on Facebook. And kindly, because we are a bit few, there are spaces here in front. There are spaces in front. You can see already the tables don't have labels, so you can promote yourself to these comfortable seats. Okay? Please, let's try to occupy these spaces because this is history in the making. We are making history. So let us park the place. Let us occupy these empty places. Remember, these photos are going to live in IEK history. 10 years from now, you'll remember yourself, engineer, attending the first presidential debate in Nakuru. None other else place than IEK South Rift. So this is an opportunity for you to make a stamp in history, being the first presidential debate. So we will pick up from where we left. We will pick up from the question of coronavirus and what the engineer is doing to mitigate the spread of coronavirus. So we'll pick up from the summary of Engineer Jen Mutilili, then Engineer Howard, and then I'll now come to the audience. So kindly presenters, you're being requested that this is the main camera, the one at the back. So as you are making your replies, as much as the moderators are asking questions, we try to look into the audience because we want to get your full face. So we are going live in the next 1 minute. So members, continue writing your questions. I'll be reading them out. There are very many questions from Facebook in the IEK page. So once the production team is ready, we can pick up. Thank you very much, Nakuru TV. Thank you very much, the Institution of Engineers of Kenya, for this presidential debate that we are facilitating right here at South Rift branch, based here in Nakuru. South Rift branch covers 7 regions: Baringo County, Bomet County, Kericho County, Laikipia County, Nakuru County, and Nyandarua. And for the first time, we are doing the presidential debate based here in Nakuru. So we'll pick up from where we left. We had left the question with Engineer Mutilili on what role does an engineer have to play in this outbreak for coronavirus. You can just take us right from the beginning. We give you 2 minutes.
Thank you very much. As I said, one of the ways that we've been told that we can avoid the coronavirus is by washing our hands. Many of us are water engineers, so one of the things that we should encourage each other first of all, and then our families and all the people around us, is to wash our hands. I think it's that basic. Just wash our hands. That's general hygiene, but now it has an added advantage to us. Other than that, we are the ones who provide the washing facilities. So wherever you are, if you can just make sure that there's a place where people can wash their hands. That is an engineering facility, and we are able to do that. So just make sure that you are able to make people wash their hands wherever they are. The other thing we can do is, as I said, we're not coming up with anything new. This is new to all of us. But what we have been told is to avoid people touching their face. You know, people listen to you. So the things that we've been told that we can do to avoid that, can we tell others? So you know that you should wash your hands as often as you can. You should keep your throat hydrated. You should not touch your face all the time. You should not touch your mouth. You should not touch, all those things. Let us pass it round and tell people. Beyond that, I don't know any medical solution that can come from us engineers here. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Let's give a round of applause. We proceed to our candidate, Engineer Howard.
Thank you, Luke. Thank you, Luke. The first time we heard of coronavirus in Kenya, we got to know of it by a very short video clip showing how in China people were building a hospital, 10,000 bed hospital, 10,000 capacity bed hospital. The first thing that came to my mind when I saw that little video clip, I was asking myself, if they're building a 10,000 capacity hospital in 10 days, when did they design it? When did they study the ground? When did they do scheduling, determining we need 60 excavators, we need how many cranes and blah, blah, all these things, the things that we do normally on any project. When you ask this question, what comes to my mind is perhaps as Kenyan engineers, we should begin thinking of doing emergency designs, because it's not just about corona. There could be another more dangerous virus that could break up in Kenya. Are we prepared for this kind of emergencies? Because what it sends to my mind is emergency situations and the role of engineers and the preparedness in such kind of situations. Are we able to pull such kind of feat? Are we able to get detailed designs within such a short time? And are we able to build for these challenges? Isolation places, wards for patients, treatment facilities, screening and scanning facilities, all of them within a period as short as 5 days or as short as 10 days. When we think about it this way, then we understand the biggest roles that engineers can play faced with a situation like coronavirus or any other similar challenge that is not far-fetched from humanity. We usually say maybe Africans, we are lucky because these disasters don't happen here. One day it might come to happen. We must start thinking now, and we must start thinking the future and planning ourselves for such kind of situations to happen.
Thank you. Let's appreciate our candidates. I'd like now to proceed to a section of reading on the comments of members from Facebook platform on the IEK Facebook page. And just to read some of them, some are directly addressed to our candidates. We have a follower of the Facebook page. We have Ndeda Gandhi. Ndeda Gandhi is asking this question: why is registration slow? So our candidates, please write that down. Why is registration slow? So that cuts across all our candidates. Now, Wellington on Facebook, Wellington Kivure is saying that we are doing a great effort by South Rift IEK branch by hosting the first IEK presidential debate. Thank you, Wellington. And also, Carol Kemi is saying, wow, great job. Steve Gashia is saying, we are not doing a very good job. How are we going to first deal with the Engineers Board of Kenya? So just come write that down, please. Steve Gashia is saying why we should start dealing with the Engineers Board of Kenya. So candidates, please write that down so you'll be able to answer. Then that is the feedback from our Facebook page. We are trending on Facebook under the hashtag IEK presidential debate. Henry Abuta is also asking on Facebook. Henry Abuta is asking, will graduate engineers be allowed to vote in the presidential election? So just write that down. Will the graduate engineers be allowed to vote? And Sang Sylvia on Facebook is following this live event, Making History at South Rift. So the next session, I would request my co-host to take some questions from the audience. And if you have a direct question to a candidate, please ask, feel free to ask the candidate, what will you do about this and this? And then now the candidates, you can just write those questions down, then we answer them together.
I'll take
Look,
two questions.
Shouldn't we have responded to the many that are already listed before we begin taking the ones for plenary?
Okay, because we would just want to have a balanced discussion, I'd like us to pick from the audience that is here so that we answer all the questions together. Thank you.
We'll just pick two questions to ensure they're not too bulky for the candidates. So I'll have two questions from the audience for now. Please state your name and then the who you'd like to answer the question as you ask the question.
Okay. My name is Emmanuel. I'm from Baringo. I have a question that all of them might want to answer. Currently, we have devolution, and we have problems with legislation in county governments. Huge chunk of Kenyan money is going to county governments, developing projects, small projects, including cattle dips and all other projects. But we don't have legislation guiding all engineers into those projects, as well as spending those money. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is that clear? Okay.
My name is Paul Keitan, a graduate civil engineer from Narok. My question is still on EBK. What are you going to do to ensure that the graduate engineers get value for their money they are paying through EBK? Because most graduate engineers, they are jobless and they are complaining that they are not getting services from EBK, and they pay, the money was increased to 4,000, and they are complaining that they are not getting value for those money. Thank you. So I just, you share how to make EBK as vibrant as IEK.
Thank you very much. I believe the candidates can answer those questions first. Please make them clear and brief. Thank you.
I have a mic, so I start the question. I answer. Why is registration slow? That's a question that was asked by Luke. I am not sure what registration you are asking. Is it from the graduate level? Is it the IEK, the corporate level? Is it the fellow? We have various, whatever. But if I start from the graduate level, every engineer who graduates, everybody who graduates from an accredited university, we can discuss the accreditation of universities later, but everybody who graduates from an accredited university, you are required to register with EBK, and all you need is your graduation degree or your graduate degree and your ID, and you go and get registered. So that is not, there's nothing anybody else can do about that. We have tried to share that with everybody, maybe the rich, unless you're telling me that the rich was not enough, that is all you're required to do. Once you do that, then you bring that registration to IEK, it is automatic registration. So once you're from an accredited university, there is no reason why you shouldn't be registered. Once you become a graduate engineer, why are we having low registration to corporate member? Maybe that is probably more of an interesting question to many people, because I believe most of you are graduate members. During our tenure, the last 2 years, we increased the panels of interviews. And right now, Honorary Secretary can bear me the truth, we do not have any pending. The last interviews that were done for civil was in February, mid-February. Anybody who brought their request for registration between mid-February and now, those are the only pending issues. I know electrical are supposed to be having their interviews next week. We don't have any pending issues. So the issue is, why are we not coming for the registration? I said in my earlier whatever, is because, first of all, it's the training. We probably don't feel comfortable, or we don't have enough training to come and do the interviews. That is something that we can tackle. But I think as far as I can to make sure that the registration is going on. What do you said, how are we going to handle EBK? I am not sure what you want us to handle in EBK. Yesterday, for those of us who went for the walk, and I hope the chairman's speech was made live or shared around. He said many things about accreditation of universities. We have a board member who's actually in charge of that. He said about registration, we have a board member, both of them are engineers, who is in charge of that. So the issue that we are having about EBK, unless you specifically ask for that the particular one, I wouldn't know how to answer that one. Will graduate engineers be allowed to vote? No. I think that is as simple as that. Emmanuel, you've asked about legislation.
Before you go on, why? Why?
Let me ask a simple question. This is always a controversial question, and every time I take it, I am sure I will probably lose a few votes. Because it's not just the graduate members who are actually asking that question. Even corporate members, I'm sure they also ask that. I have 3 interns in my office right now, actually 4, who graduated last year. Which graduates are we requesting to vote? Is it the ones who've just finished the universities? Is it the ones who are registered with IBK? Is it because the issue is there are those ones who've been working for 5 years and who are very conversant with the engineering. So those are the ones we want to vote. Where do we stop that? And for those ones, why are they not transitioning to the corporate, to be corporate? Because that's what we are doing, trying to cooperate them.
That is a first step before graduation to the PE. So
Sorry?
why not? That is being a graduate engineer is the first step. It will always be the first step.
Yes, it is.
So why don't we have rights to actually vote? And we are the majority. And we are registered members. I think that is the question.
I think, as I said, we can have this debate to the end of the world. I don't think this is the time. Right now, our constitution does not allow you to vote. And I hope the next constitution will also not allow you to vote. I have lost all my votes, I know. But that is a fact. Because you should be able to move. Somebody put it on, I hardly ever go to Telegram, but somebody said that we always say that graduate engineers is a transition stage. It is a transition stage, and that is a fact. Let me ask, why are 17-year-olds not allowed to vote in our wherever? I mean, there has to be rules, and the rules end at some point. It is exactly the same. We have to whatever. IPK. The next one is Emmanuel. Legislation at the county government. What you're saying is that the rules of building a toilet and a cattle dip is the same as building a whatever. Was that the question?
Come again.
No, I'm just trying to respond to the question of Emmanuel. I can see he's already wants me to stop the
Before
whatever.
you respond to that question.
Maybe we can ask Emmanuel so that we capture the question exactly the way he had said it.
Okay, my question was, legislation in county government is not direct, doesn't affect engineering. Engineers, like there is a huge chunk of money coming into county government, 40 to 45%, according to devolution, 35 to 40%, and there are no engineers working on those money going into projects. Like we have ward administrators who are not engineers. They are managing small projects for us.
Thank you very much. I think as I was talking about my project, one of the things I would like to do is actually that the counties, I know we have not tackled the counties in our current council, in the previous council. That is something that has to
The next candidate answering those questions so that we move, we capture those responses as early as now. Let's have Engineer Matalanga, then we go to Engineer Howard.
Thank you, Luke. The question about the slow rate of registration, that is real, but when you say the graduates are the majority of IEK members, that's not true, because I shared the figures recently, and I pledged that we are trying with time to make the corporate be the majority, so that when people join the graduate class, we are able to match them up quickly for mentorship purposes. So let me just finish. The problem that is there, and the reason why the issue of the slow I don't know, Luke, can I skip the question so that I finish the issue of graduate voting and everything?
Yes, you can just skip to the relevant question
exactly.
so that you can address.
Yeah,
Thank
the
you.
reason why we are worried, and I was discussing with Joseph and Ansaria earlier, you know, when we say graduate, it's not the people who have left school last year. These are people who have been there. Some of them have been working for 10 years. Some of them is Joseph Kitilit a few months ago. You know, those are the people who have been saying, can we be allowed to vote? And that, as I said earlier, those were one of the problems we created ourselves by refusing to put transparent systems. You know, IEK started in 1972. There was only one university, the University of Nairobi. So it was serving one university. The professor at the Department of Engineering then became the chairman of IEK, and most of the officials were from the university, from the ministry. We failed to rise up to the occasion when the universities became more. And therefore, we've not been able to process, to transition these people. So people graduate, the system is hard, like electrical engineering. When we were in IEK, we got a complaint from government that there is scarcity of electrical engineers. When the thing, IBK started and saying you cannot be promoted in Kenya Power unless you are a PE to certain positions, then there was a crisis. So we needed to bring, that is what informed the issue that this is going to be a crisis unless we address it. And the IBK is a regulatory body. IEK came up with a very innovative system. Let us expand the panels. Before, in electrical engineering, there were 3 panelists. And the rule is that 3 have to meet. So if any of them was not around, and one of them was a former chairman who was traveling a lot. So when any of them was not around, the panel could not meet. They used to meet twice a year. When I became honorary secretary in 2016, I had to write that chairman of the panel messages and say, we have this number of applications at the secretariat. Can you let me know when you are going to sit? And I had to report at the council meeting that I have written to this chairman, and we have asked him to convene the panel review of these projects. So when we increase the panelists, that should become a bit shorter. But EBK, I'd like to announce now that I'm rushing back to Nairobi tomorrow morning because 3 p.m., the IEK Council is having a meeting with EBK board. And if you send me a message now, whatever problems you have with EBK, secretary@iekenya.org. In the morning when I reach Nairobi, I will download all of them, forward them to the secretariat, and it will be part of the discussion. EBK has regulations, and because of those regulations and it being a government agency, sometimes they say yes, like the way the chairman was saying yesterday, but they are not able to implement immediately. So those people, we have 3 categories of graduates. Those, some of them have 10 years experience. We're going to discuss and say, what is the rule of 3 years before you become EBK graduate? Then you have to wait 3 years before you can become PE. That is, you know, you can't understand that. And we have 7 engineers sitting on EBK board who are talking our language. So we want to come with an innovative way of removing that thing. Because once you pass, you know, there are geniuses in the world. How will you stop him getting registered? Because he's passed the interview. How does a 3-year, after he has passed the interview, change anything? Because what else is he going to do? He's already IEK corporate member. I've already given him a letter. I've already given him a certificate. So you are waiting for him to 3 years now to do what with him? You're not going to interview him again. So we want, and I've promised in my manifesto, that one of the things I am going to try to harmonize the interview panels at EBK and IEK, so that whatever IEK is doing, it becomes automatic with EBK. So we don't have to waste time with our members. So we hope with that, we shall shorten the registration period. There were some members who were actually graduates before 2011. What do we do with these people? We have to process them immediately. You can't start telling them, go to EBK, wait for 3 years, and then come to IEK. IEK cannot process. We've actually boldly, and I personally have had discussions with the registrar. And I told him, IEK rules are different from EBK, and we have processed people without due regard to that 3-year rule. Once there was a court ruling, and someone has been practicing for 3 years and is able to pass the interview, those fellows, I'll say without fear of contradiction, that I have signed their certificates. So we are way ahead from what EBK. And whatever challenges we are having, we are going to have a meeting. Forward those challenges to me, I'll ensure that I table them tomorrow. So how to deal with EBK? That's one of the ways. How will graduate engineers value for money for the 4,000 they are paid? Those of you who are the 50th anniversary celebration of EBK, I raised these questions. I was given a chance. I was a panelist at the governance session. And I said, governance means you explain to the people you are governing how they should be governed. And you agree with them. So if the majority of people feel that the 4,000 is expensive, the regulator should look at it. And we should revisit it and come up with what is manageable. But if you see, and if you are able to elect progressive council for IEK, these 4,000 shillings should not be a lot of money, because some people also expect a lot of service, because we know when you reduce EBK license 4,000, we in IEK cannot increase our subs, because, you know, it will be like, why is IEK asking us to pay 10,000 and EBK is still 4? So for us to have delivery of services, what is saying, we need to improve the welfare of engineers across students, graduates, consultants, so that we have money. We have money in their pockets, so that the 4,000 is not a hindrance. If we realize that we have to pay this money to progress, I'm sure someone is paying for these bills today, you know. You can't say it's expensive to have this debate, so let us not have it. It's a big disservice you are doing to our profession. So let us put money together to pay for this service, explain ourselves to our people, and get the right leaders in the place. Legislation in county level. We're not forgetting about it. I know Howard is able to say he's had negotiations preparing to be president. We've already had, and we've been invited to the county of governors meetings. It's only that it's a long process to get something done, because that's why in IEK, one of the things that we are going to do, and we agreed in the Mombasa during the conference, is that we are going to have thematic panels. I know we are loaded with a lot of things happening now. The earliest opportunity I get, I'm going to advertise for expression of interest, for people to express interest in serving in various thematic panels. And we shall have people on that panel, corporates, graduates, so that when something like this in the county is happening, we're able to mobilize people, machinani, so that they run with it and tell us, hey, this legislation is coming up, and this is the way we need to strategize.
Please, in the interest of time, could we just skim through so that just conclude, so that we also give ample time to our candidate, Engineer Howard?
Yes, maybe the contentious issue of graduate engineers voting. You know, it is in our constitution. I said when we did the review of that constitution, the contentious things we needed to negotiate with the current people then was election. So the issue of voting was never addressed. But I would also like to put it down to you. As a Kenyan engineer, when you travel, you are held in high esteem because of the services you give. We are now struggling to join international accords. We have signed MRAs across the region, so that when you go out as a Kenyan, you need to be recognized as that. So the challenge will come when we don't have some people with the definition of engineer. If you look at I know we are saying graduate engineer. You can't say I'm an engineer and so and so. You can only say so and so after you have a PE. So we need to be uniform about things. And we know that it's not a question of a graduate engineer being allowed. These people, 10 years experience, should be allowed to vote. And we need to transition them quickly. So that is my take, that it is possible through a constitutional review to give rights to this group of people. But it might not be necessary, because if we do the speed at which we are doing and bring all of them on board, then there will be no clamor that I'm not voting. All of us will be voting, because you'll want to transition so that you have an additional benefit of voting and making a decision to elect your leader. Thank you.
Please, thank you. Let's give him a round of applause. Would now like to proceed to our candidate, Engineer Howard, who is able to answer the questions from the audience.
Thank you, Luke. The first question was, why is registration slow? My take is that there are many reasons, because registration is a process. Some of the reasons are associated with the candidates. Some of the reasons are associated with the bureaucracies. Those reasons associated with the candidates are also various. Some people just fear to be examined. Others have not had a chance to be trained properly. Others have actually been trained and they are 70% good, but they are still waiting to be 100% good. You keep on wondering you see, there is a panel to examine you. It's not your job to examine yourself and decide I'm not at 100%. Document your work, take it to that panel. If they tell you are still 40%, They'll advise you where you are weak, and you can go and correct it in another 6 months and show up back. Because I think the panels are fair enough to tell you what you're supposed to panel beat. Those are problems associated with the candidates. There are also problems associated with bureaucracies. I've seen Engineer Matalanga, one of these fine days, being roasted on Telegram. Someone asking him, why have you not released my certificate 2 months down the line? And he defended himself by saying the certificate is being printed at De La Rue. These are bureaucracies that can be solved by digitization. You know, I'm a member of PMI US, and I'm PMP certified for the last 10 years. Those who are calculating my age. Our PMI certificate, when I'm renewing it, right now I'm in the 12th year cycle, I think, of renewal. When I'm renewing it, I only need to update my CPDs and pay my subscriptions. Within 2 minutes, I receive my certificate. It's that efficient. This is a question of bureaucracies, which can shorten the time for registration. Of course, there are other issues that Engineer Matalanga has really exposed on. I don't want to add on it. Issues like, you know, the panel chairman disappearing in the thin air, there is no alternative panel, and blah, 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 blah. All those could also be contributing to lengthen time for registration. But for sure, I worked for 6 years as a quality assurance engineer and managing issues of quality in projects. One thing I learned is that you cannot solve a problem if you cannot define it. This issue of prolonged time of registration, we need to identify it and separate 1, 2, 3 from each other so that we are able to know what we are addressing at what point and how we are addressing it. Graduates voting. Graduates cannot vote in these elections. This is what our constitution says. There should be no two ways of answering that question. However, I would also say that personally, I am a very liberal person, and I believe in thinking and looking at things from many different dimensions. The person, when Engineer Matalanga was championing the Constitution 2015, I was the person in that SGM who moved the motion to allow graduates to vote. If we check the minutes, it should be on the minutes. I remained on the floor arguing alone until Chairman Kosgei told me, Howard, you've said enough, now you need to sit down. But this is how I look at it. It has nothing to do with how many years somebody has spent outside university. I've had this argument that, you know, if you're a graduate, if you're not given rights to vote, you'll be motivated to be corporate member. The motivation to become corporate member has got nothing to do with voting. Voting rights are basic rights. You see, you cannot tell your son that, young man, you cannot buy a coat and put it on now until you become married, so that you can put on a coat, because a coat is just a basic clothing, which has absolutely nothing to do with motivation to get married. Those are two mutually exclusive things. What motivates people to progress to PE? People are looking for promotions, people are looking for better salaries, people are looking for independence in professional practice. Those are things that motivate people to progress from GE to PE, not voting rights. However, I am trained in matters of law. There are fears and genuine fears. Sometimes I look at the way Sometimes, hello, okay. Sometimes, I've engaged them so viciously, and I've engaged graduate engineers, and I know that sometimes they can be extremely unreasonable. Sometimes graduates can be extremely unreasonable, creating too much fears among the seniors. For example, can you imagine if graduates are allowed to vote, and then we come into a meeting? If I have so many instructions, I don't know which one to follow.
This is for online.
And then thirdly, there is growth in quality. And you can't grow quality without regulation. So IBK is going nowhere. And if it has to go, then we have to still find a formula of regulating. For example, we can go the direction of self-regulation. In this kind of methods, you have the opportunity perhaps to fuse IBK and IK. After all, they've been working on the same thing anyway. Fuse them and create another entity that will do self-regulation for engineers, so that if you think the person the CS usually chooses treats you badly, you can choose your own person through a vote. Because all these things can be legislated, and that's why we have to be liberal in our thinking. We don't have to look like we are fighting because we are one unit. We are the engineers of Kenya, and there are no other engineers. The engineers of Kenya are the ones sitting here.
Thank you very much.
Had I finished the question? Yes.
You have answered the ones you felt like answering.
Thank you. Can I add something? Oh, there is one question. He said, how can EBK be vibrant like IEK? Thank you. Okay. Thank you. So there was a final question that was asking, how can we make EBK vibrant like EBK? I just wanted to remind us again that EBK is a regulator. And for those of us who are younger than me, I've lived for a short life to see transformation at EBK. It was more moribund than you see it today. And EBK tells a very interesting story of what I stand for today, you know. Freshness, injecting freshness, new energy, new vibrancy. EBK plucked somebody to become their CEO who had never been an employee of EBK. IEK also did that, and they have been very successful. They plucked somebody from somewhere, brought her to be the CEO, and she has done tremendous work. And I've been telling voters to pluck Howard from where he is, make him their president, just to introduce a new dynamism. Because you see, the constitution, which was championed by Engineer Matalanga, did something very interesting in 2015. It concentrated on revising Section 9. Section 9 always used to ensure that leadership of IEK is hereditary. So-and-so will inherit from so-and-so, so-and-so will inherit from. So in 20 years, we know who's going to be president. That constitution changed Section 9 and opened it to open candidature and universal suffrage. If Howard is fit to be president, he does not need to have sat in the council to serve in the council. He only needs to put his credentials on the table, put his candidature there, pitch for his position, and be voted. That constitution caused a lot of problems. In 2016, when Auma tried to vie and Engineer Matalanga, they were rigged out. In 2018, because Auma had introduced electronic voting and we supported him and it went through, the formula changed. They blocked candidates from vying. If they don't like you, you are blocked. In Kamau was also a victim of that. In 2020, we are happy to have an election like now because the mood between candidates, the mood of the election handlers is really, really good. The mood of the council, the mood of the institution is just perfect for this election. We have progressed, that's for sure. We are going into a transition. We have to lead this transition and lead it seamlessly.
It will be unfair for me not to clarify that our council period was 2018 until now 2020. The participation for the engineers' fees must have happened under the previous council. And this is the council with the people who had taken us behind. Basically, it was a team that was rigged in. So we cannot expect anything from people who are not the authority. That's where we're going now. If there are mistakes made, let us review it and correct. So I just as honorary secretary 2018. Then you have consulting engineers. Thank you.
I'll try to repeat it quickly. I might not repeat the exact same words. But number one, I said graduates cannot vote in this election. It's as simple as that because the constitution limits them from voting. And historically, if there's anything that I've been in IK is I've tried to walk the narrow path of the constitution. Anybody who does anything in IK, I usually try to challenge them, but only based on the constitution, including where the constitution itself conflicts itself. Secondly, I had mentioned that having said that graduates cannot vote now, I am on record as having when that Constitution 2015 was being championed, in the SGM that adopted it, I moved a motion on that day for graduate engineers to be allowed to vote. I argued the case. I remained on the floor alone. The chairman told me, Howard, you have spoken enough. Now you must sit down. My understanding is that voting is a basic right. And the argument that GE voting is supposed to motivate GEs to transition, I think it's unsubstantiated and it's unsupported, for a simple reason that we know, you know, I know, that what motivates people to transition from GE to PE, people are looking for better salaries, better remuneration, people are looking for rising up in the ranks, people are looking for professional independence. Those are the key issues that motivate people to transition, not voting. Not voting, because we know there are even those who transition and they still don't vote. So obviously voting can never ever be a motivation for people to transition. And I likened it to a parent who tells the child that, you know, you cannot put on a coat until you marry. And he tries to say, you see, I'm motivating you to marry so that you can put on a coat. Those two things are mutually exclusive and they should never be associated. If you have the money to buy the coat and look good. Something else that I wish to say, in the current constitutional review, the one that was chaired again by Senior Engineer Matalanga and Secretary Engineer Uma, I know it has been said that they received comments from 3 or 4 people. 3 people. I'm guilty because I sent my comments slightly later, belatedly. But if you look at what my comments were, is that my understanding, you need to be dynamic, that there are genuine fears among the elders that graduate engineers or younger engineers can abuse powers to vote. And those concerns are genuine, especially if you look and listen to how some graduate engineers reason. I've engaged them, and they know I've engaged them. This one, we can bet on it. Some of their reasoning sometimes looks very dangerous. But this is what I have to say about that dangerous reasoning, that as a professional and whose profession leans toward legislation and laws, I've studied a Master of Law in construction law. And I have a slight understanding of how legislation happens. When you have fears about abuse of rights, you do not throw the rights out of the window. You legislate those abuses. You become dynamic in your thinking. You can, for example, in universities, there are always 2 students who are members of the Senate. And there are clear rules that have, in the statutes, that have defined how they should behave in the Senate. Because they are representing a big constituency of students, and they can speak for those students inside the Senate, so that Senate makes decisions that are informed. To me, nothing stops graduates from voting, nothing stops graduates from being in council. They have proved to be very resourceful. Today we are here courtesy of a lot of work that has been put in this thing by graduates. So they are resourceful, and they are our people. They are part of this body. We can legislate. My proposal, the one that I had sent belatedly, was actually giving a few models that can be looked at. For example, you can allow graduates to be able to have powers to vote on representation, but curtail their powers to vote on constitutional changes, so that they don't come and vote a constitution that says for you to become a PE, you have to do nothing and just become. You know, we have to protect the constitution. We can legislate that. We can legislate and say we will have, for example, a graduates chapter, and the chair and the honorary secretary of the graduates chapter will be sitting on the council. We can legislate and say, even under our current constitution, we can say we have 2 co-opted members who are supposed to help us to get representation from non-represented groups. Graduates form a constituency of almost 11,000 people who can pay subscription to the institution. They come, they have 2 people co-opted, a lady and a man. These are all ways that we can create different models to deal with these issues that has remained a big monster. People are wondering, so what are we doing here if we are just waiting for the day to become PEs? Because we have to recognize that these are adults, they're educated, they're sharp, they passed many exams, and they have powers to vote the President of the Republic of Kenya.
right. Thank you very much. Actually, I was going to answer quickly all the questions because some of them have been directed to the current council members, so I cannot leave it for Howard. Because the first question was, EBK is concerned about raising revenue and not bothered with enforcement. I think that question is directed because of the way the country has been structured. We need to go back to history and realize that, and I talked about this, our greatest enemy, you know my contribution, our greatest enemy has been ourselves. There was a time in this country when enforcement of construction, of development was everywhere under the city engineers department or the town engineers department. There was clamor because those leaders didn't care about us. The planners managed to get the act in place, and led by Nairobi, there was a planner called Kuria Wagadhoni. He managed to say, sorry, the enforcement and the control of development control should be under the planners. So you find that it is now the planners who are going to construction sites. And those of us who are in construction know that a planner on your project never even attends a site meeting. So when he's left and given authority to go to a construction site, he has no clue. This contractor is qualified, this contractor knows how to read the drawing, and this is this concrete looks as grade 25 or 15. They wait until the building has collapsed, then they realize there is. So we need to have our thematic panels work in such a way that we wrestle development control from other units to come back to the engineers department, either in the cities and in all the towns. Those of you who are from upcountry, you know that when you have a bit of money and you want to do a permanent house at home, there will be someone who asks you, can you bring the building for approval? And when you take your building for approval I come from Kitale, you find that you are presenting those plans to a public health officer who stamps them. In fact, he asked me, engineer, where do I stamp? So I told him, these are the architectural drawings, these are the electrical drawings, these are the structural drawings. Okay, stamp for me. Then I asked him, why are you asking me? And my neighbor is living in a semi-permanent house. He has never brought his plans here. He says, oh, because you can afford. So we need to get away from that and have this development control wrestled from the wrong. And if you sign a drawing, an architectural drawing should be signed by a registered architect. An engineering drawing should be signed by a registered engineer. And that's why the current building code is being revised. We've participated in a big way to ensure that this is done. Then EBK doesn't have capacity. National Construction Authority are trying, but you see, they don't have an approval role. All they do is that they want to confirm there is an engineer who has done, and then you do this odd line. Then some of us have used unethical means to quickly see a gap and start earning a living by having near the center there, giving your certificate to NCA registration officer. He registers you, as we had been told earlier that there are so many projects which are happening, and you cannot be one person supervising 400 projects in the country. All you are doing, you are facilitating quacks, because these drawings have been done by quacks. What have I done to protect the interest of engineers? I cannot say I'm disappointed. Maybe we've just lost a bit of contact. I want to believe that 95% of the people in this room appreciate that in the last 2 years, there has been a bit of vibrancy at IEK. We've tried to push the engineering agenda. When I say I have been on council since 2014, 2015, as ordinary council member, 2015, 2016, if I was given more time and probably away, I can try to engage to you, to explain to you where we have come from and where we are now. So there is a lot that has been done to push the engineering agenda. Even the fact that we are having this meeting and seated here, you know, it's very good for us, because apart from me trying to pitch to be the president and you listening to me, there is Nakuru television, which is putting it. And these people are asking, what's happening in Nakuru today? So someone will be told along the line, oh, the engineers are going to elect their leaders, and therefore they are trying to have a debate to find out who among the leaders they can be elected. So I think no union for engineers, it's a hard question for us on IEK to understand that debate, because the reason why I offered myself to serve on council was to get some space for us. So if it was through IEK, which is a society, through NU, which is a union, I mean, it is good. But from where I'm coming from, before I even went to IEK, you know, I was registrar of all architects in Kenya through being the chairman of the engineers chapter of the Architectural Association of Kenya. Then I became, after that, I joined the governing council of IEK. And then I became the registrar. So all members of IEK, I had to sign their certificates. So we have all avenues for representation. The engineers chapter of IEK, there are people there. Association of Consulting Engineers, there are people there. NU, they are pushing our agenda. We all meet the good of the engineer. So I don't think there is any problem. But the challenge has been, we have been seen as if we are fighting each other. You understand? When you fight, you don't pull together. You know, when you want to go far, you have to move together. So we need to realize that IEK is already a registered society. IBK is our regulator. And if you want to move forward, you cannot start by every post. Unfortunately, from NU has been, IEK hasn't done this. NU has never come and said, can you help us with this court case? I personally invited Oluga when we had the Royal Academy of Engineering doing a research. You saw, they came. I sent him there to talk to them. He never came back to us and said, this is what we agreed to them and this is what they agreed to us. So this thing of dividing and rule, we should move away from it. Let us unite and move forward the engineers' agenda. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. I was in the council with Engineer Matalanga, and therefore many of the things he has said, of course, they were part of what we did. On the issue of the welfare of engineers, the NU, you know, as we are actually the welfare. What we would not know is what it is that we are not doing for you so that it can be done. I hear what Engineer Mwoki from Baringo has asked about KPLC. It is something that we discussed as a council, but we are not discussing about the projects. You know, sometimes until you come to us specifically and tell us what it is that is being done. For example, you talked about procurement and projects that are being done by other people other than the engineers, or that are not being supervised by the engineers. We don't work for Kenya Power. We wouldn't know. If you get such things, I'm sure you can get to us, you know, as IEK, and then as a body, we are able to agitate for that. When I said that we were planning to talk to, for example, the governor, and we went through Engineer Kivuda Kibwana, who's actually supposed to be their governor, talking to him as a person will not help me at all. When we go and talk to him as a council, in fact, that time it was ASEC. It was in the Association of Consulting Engineers. We invited him, we spoke to him, we told him what it is that as consultants, what we want done. As consultants, where the gap is between us, between the engineers, and especially within the counties, because we are being led within the counties. Our infrastructures are being led by non-engineers. If I go and talk to him as a person, it does not make any effect. And I mean, we will discuss, we'll talk, and that will be it. If we go there as a body, he has to listen to us, and he has to do what we are proposing for him to do. So that's what I was saying, that if you have a problem, why we have IEK and why we have EBK is IEK, even when we lobby with EBK, that issue Engineer Matalanga was talking about, registration of engineers. The Supreme Court came, then we got a letter actually telling us that we shouldn't interview these people because they've just gotten the registration from EBK. Of course, it doesn't make sense. We went back to them and we had a discussion with them, and we interviewed the people who had actually requested to be interviewed and had actually made the statutory training, and they passed. And the issue they're having right now is with EBK to have their certificates from EBK, because we have already certified them as corporate members. That is part of the discussion that we are going to have tomorrow. Unfortunately, I'll not be there. I'll be attending a funeral for one of our engineers who passed away. May he rest in peace. So, but that is the whatever that we are going to have. So as IEK, we agitate for engineers. We actually have engineers at our heart. We just need to know what it is that you want to tell us. There was something else small that about the registration and regulation of players. Sorry, just one small thing. We have as IEK, as you said, we are actually looking at the welfare of engineers. Maybe with time we can get into projects and everything else. Right now, it's not in our mandate. We have the National Construction National Construction Authority, and it is the one that is supposed to be looking at the projects. We are supposed to be, as engineers, you're supposed to be, no project is supposed to be registered with NCA unless it is being registered with an engineer and an architect and a QS, but an engineer is a registered engineer. I just want to appeal to engineers, anybody who's listening to me, please do not accept supervision of a job that you're not going to supervise. Most of the projects that have been collapsing is because we have somebody who's actually taken up, accepted to be a supervisor of a project that they know nothing about. When they collapse, you go to site. What we are being told, when you call the person to ask them, they said they don't know about that. Somebody in this country is supervising 450 something projects, starting from Mombasa to Kwale to Kisumu to Narok. It's not humanly possible. So even as engineers, we need to be responsible. Somebody yesterday asked me what we are doing about those engineers who've been registered by NCA. As I said, if you're a rogue engineer, it is to our interest as the rest of the engineers to make sure that you are disciplined as you're supposed to be disciplined. Thank you.
In the interest of time, I'll only respond to the last question of Kenya National Union of Engineers. And just make this clarification that whereas Institution of Engineers of Kenya is an institution that should take care of the welfare of engineers, the mandate of IEK is much, much wider. And Kenya National Union of Engineers' mandate is narrow as defined by the labor laws. In other words, it's limited only to labor relations and labor issues. When this issue came up on one of the social forums, I made my thoughts known to the proponents of Kenya National Union of Engineers. And my thoughts were that, well, it is okay to have another unit within engineering that deals only with the matters of labor relations. However, the challenge of that outfit, the biggest challenge, which I think I had given these thoughts and somebody else also supported me on them, is that for you to successfully run a labor institution, you need something that is called a common bond. Common bond is like, if you want a successful SACCO, it is more successful if I am congregating employees of Kenya Power, because by the fact that they are employed by one employer, it gives them a common bond. If I wanted to make deductions to finance the SACCO or to repay the loans are less risky, and picking of the money is easier because I only need a letter and recognition from the employer, and the employer will be picking the money for me, and it's easy for me to lend my members at a lower interest rate. The biggest challenge that Kenya National Union of Engineers has to figure out to deal with is not registration. Registration will come and happen. I don't know who went there to stop its registration. If somebody did that, that is evil and misguided. But if it's just a normal bureaucratic issues that are happening, the proponents should also be strong enough and know that things don't have to run smoothly all through. If it means going through the court, just go to that court, pursue the cause. If you have no money, just say you need mchango and people will contribute. You push the case through the court. If the court tells you that you have no locus standi, in this case, you come back and figure out something else. If you succeed in court, come back, register the institution. But even as you overcome all those challenges, ask yourself, will we overcome the challenge of common bond? How are we going to collect membership subscriptions from a self-employed guy, another one employed by another firm there, others are 5 of them in one firm, he even moves from that farm to some other farm. It becomes very murky and very difficult. So these are my thoughts about Kenya National Union of Engineers. However noble the idea is, and the fact that they can handle a very important aspect of engineering, which is labor relations, matters of salaries, minimum wages, job groups that you need to get in if you're in government, but there is a challenge that has to be overcome, and people need to sit on the table and think dynamically how they can navigate that challenge. Thank you.
Because of the interest of time, some of us are as far as Nairobi, and Garissa, if we remember. So let's give a chance.
Thank you for this opportunity. I just want to be direct. I am. My questions are two. I had many, but since my colleagues have already mentioned something about them, I don't want to repeat. But I want first to ask a question on welfare, but I want to be particular about foreign employers. Because I say this because I have experience. Before, I used to work with, in foreign companies, expatriates. I have this problem of engineers working under foreigners who are not engineers, okay? And they are paid peanuts. You are supervised by a foreman who has never gone to school, but because he is white, he is your boss. And you're paid 10,000, okay? And he's paid 1 million shillings. How are we going to correct that as IEK? We need to work on it. I need to hear something about it. Number two, people who are employed here, engineers who are employed have different employers who have different feelings and understandings about growing as an engineer. What do I mean? When we want to attend such forums, when we want to attend to be trained, we want sponsorship from employers. But all our employers do not have equal or the same understanding of what engineering is. So we have problems with some of these members even getting CPD points because the employers cannot sponsor them or cannot allow them to be trained, cannot sponsor their trainings. What is IEK going to do to help these engineers to get these opportunities? Thank you.
So I can start. The issue of the foreign employers, I think it is one of the easiest to sort out. Mainly we talk about the private sector. If you look at what I have shared with you as my action points, I've said very clearly that I will lobby national, county government and private sector to create jobs for engineers. And the easiest thing to remove this frustration is to lobby. There was a question asked about the minimum job groups for engineers. Is to lobby government, the Public Service Commission, to ensure that the starting entry point for an engineer is able to give our graduate a reasonable salary to live on as a graduate, just like other professional bodies. And this is very simple because we have among our members, and you saw yesterday, the chief guest didn't come, but Engineer Mongera, who is a former PS, who will take your hand and walk with you to the chairman of the Public Service Commission. If you prod him, I cannot run away from it. He will be able to ensure that once our people who are working in the public sector are properly remunerated, this mistreatment in industrial area will not be there, because what will interest you to leave your public service position to go and work with him? He has to pay you and treat you better than the public sector. So that will immediately translate into better treatment at that level. Now, this guy who is supervising you and pretending to be an engineer should not have a work permit. Thank you.
Thank you so much for really observing time.
Yes. I also just want to answer that question. It's true that once you get people working in the in the public sector, it's the best payer. During our time, when we finished school, people went from public to private. Right now, they are coming from private to public. But we also have to take cognizance that we can't all have jobs in the public sector. So I think what I would want to appeal, and especially to the public authorities, public bodies, please, our procurement, that procurement is the one that should actually take care of the engineer. I have had issues with some procurement where it is actually tailored for that other person, not anybody around here, not anybody within our country. So it is very important that during the procurement of our projects, that is taken care of. Because if that is not taken care of, and a company has been taken before you get the job, the personnel is actually approved. By the time that personnel or that person is being approved by the procurement entity, they should actually meet the minimum. And one of the minimum is to make sure that we do not have that capacity around here. So you cannot be bringing, I don't know what kind of person you are thinking about, that person to come and supervise an engineer, because that shouldn't be allowed within the procurement entity. So that is actually something that we need to really look at. Sponsorship by employers. Sorry. I think one of the things that we have tried to do is to look for, sponsorship from others. Once you get sponsorship from others, then we are able to bring down our functions, facilities down, so that the cost is actually not so high. Sorry about the time.
I'll only respond to the question of being paid peanuts, and I will agree with my senior that one of the areas, of course, one of the agendas of the president, is compliance. On compliance, if this person is a foreigner and he came here as a Nyapara, it means that there was a problem with application of the laws of the land as far as immigration is concerned. And that's why under my pillar on compliance, I said this is not something you can do alone, but you have to partner with other people like the Ministry of Interior and find ways around it. That's one. But number two, I want to paint the picture of why people pay peanuts, because we should not look we cannot look at it as a straitjacket solution. People pay peanuts, number one, because of market forces. And if they pay you peanuts as a symptom of desperation, it's a symptom of desperation. The actual problem is desperation. People are jobless, they have no alternatives, and therefore they have to run for those 10,000 worth of jobs. Then the solution would be to create opportunities, to grow opportunities. And if opportunities grow, they have alternatives, and they can always get those alternatives. Reason number two why people pay peanuts in labor relations is what we call employee redundancy. If I've employed 5 people and I get a project today, and come 3 years down the line, the project is finished, but I still have the employees that are on permanent and pensionable, the law of redundancy requires me to still pay them a salary. So the only logical way for me to keep them and obey that law of redundancy is to pay a small salary, which I can pay when I have no jobs. Again, the solution is to create more opportunities. Thank you.
I will want to obey my 1 minute by looking here. Thank you. Thank you very much, members. I feel greatly privileged to be here with you. And as we have had a very nice understanding that we need good leaders in IEK, I promise that whatever I'm telling you, we shall ensure that it is done as has happened before. We have not promised, we have always promised and delivered. I'd like to be given time to finish whatever transformation we have started, to ensure that we don't lose direction. And in that period, in the next 3 years, I'll ensure that there is proper mentorship for the takeover of IEK. And I'm very excited by the candidates that from that group, I'm sure we are going to get very good people to continue the transition. That's the only way to guarantee the future of IEK. God bless all of us, and long live IEK.
Okay. Now, thank you very much. First of all, I'm very excited that you've organized for this. One of the things I've realized and I've always known is the worthiness of my competitors. I cannot take that for granted. I've never taken it for granted. These people have been my friends, and I think we are all worthy to serve in that position. IEK Council, even if you elected me by myself, I will not be able to deliver anything. So it is good, even as you elect me as your council, elect people who you know, who you believe in, and who you know that can actually deliver for you. People who are not self-centered, who are not self-driven, who look for things that are going to benefit everybody. It is so important such that once we put that election, the next 2 years, as others sit here, because I don't think I will be here sitting for the next election, but whoever sits here, at least will be able to know what has been done and will be able to whatever. IEK is very vibrant. We've done very well. There's a lot more to be done. Elect people who can do that much. I am one such person. Thank you.
It's my time, Luke. My honest opinion is that this year the candidates we have for presidential elections are really, really good candidates, and it is upon you to choose.